times of tyranny and injustice, when law oppresses the people, the outlaw takes his place in history.
Are you ready?
This could be the greatest night of our lives.
You're listening to the Outlaw Radio Network. OutlawRadioNetwork.com.
All right, it's the Outlaw Radio Network. Thanks for checking out the show. It is the last Sunday in June 2014. Thanks for being a part of the show. Coming up later tonight, we will have St. Paul, the voice of whatever he's the voice of this week, joining us by Skype, and then he'll be in. But at some point, he has a softball game, and I don't know. I've given up trying to understand his hobbies.
That means he won't be in at all tonight.
No, according to him, according to the last text that I got.
He's not going to be in.
I'm just telling you.
Hold on. His game does not start till 8:30.
Yeah, the last text I got from him is that he was going to be in by phone, and then he would go play his game, and then he would bring the boys here.
His game's not going to get over till like 9, probably 9 to 9:30.
Yeah, the show goes till 11. Where are they playing at?
Yeah,
Pendergrass?
I don't need both his boys here at 11 o'clock.
Where are they playing at? Pendergrass?
No, right down the road at Lions.
Oh, then that's why he's coming by.
I don't need both his kids here. He's got to understand that.
Too bad, so sad. Life sucks.
My guy, I got
Get
a
a
daughter
helmet.
upstairs that needs to sleep.
You have a what?
I got a daughter upstairs that needs to sleep.
Well, she'll sleep.
And I got a kid that needs to sleep. Another boy.
He'll sleep.
Have you heard Truon when he's here? When
Don't be so rigid.
That's right. You don't hear Truon because Truon's upstairs crying for his dad.
That's right. Listen, don't be so rigid.
So,
That's Strip you hear in the background right into the show. Sitting next to me to my right is one and only Chris Duval, otherwise known as CD Poe, and we'll get to Chris in a second and talk about why he is here, and the big event that's around the corner. Later in tonight's show, just to give you a heads up of what's coming up. So there's really three big stories we're going to follow on the show tonight, and I say this without having spoken to Paul at all because he did play softball. One. The Supreme Court will start hearing tomorrow the case that I believe is in reference to Hobby Lobby, but irregardless, it's the case that is, can the federal government require private employers to provide birth control even if it's against their religious views? And that's the case that they'll start hearing tomorrow. So we'll talk about that. Number two we'll talk about is what's going on in regards to Iraq. There's a lot of questions I've got to ask Paul. He eats, sleeps, and drinks this crap, and I there's just a couple things that don't make sense to me. So I'll ask Paul about that, and we'll talk about whether or not we should get involved, whether or not we think we will involve. There's been some new developments in the last 4 or 5 days about that. The last thing that we're going to talk about, and I love Paul, but there's been a lot of discussion back and forth between Paul and I on my Facebook page and on his and whatever in regards to the IRS scandal. But I'm actually more interested in the VA scandal and the situation with the VA, and so I'm gonna pick a fight with Paul because I actually think the bigger scandal here is the VA scandal, which is being largely ignored on many fronts because the flaws in the VA can be traced back to Obama and to Bush and to Clinton and to Bush, and it's not just one president you can blame, so we're just not going to blame anybody. But the flaws in the VA have led to at least a dozen deaths, and allegations that the VA changed death certificate. This is, to me, a far more pressing issue to deal with than whether or not somebody who worked for another federal agency did anything wrong. I'm not saying it doesn't have to be addressed, but this VA thing needs to be fixed because you cannot ask men and women to volunteer for service for their country if they're going to get wounded and then mistreated and have it lead to their death. It boggles the mind. So we'll talk about that. A whole bunch of other stuff going on too. I'm going to pick Paul's brain as well about the case of the dad who left his kid in the car when he went to work. And 2 weeks later, there's a whole bunch of other stories about that as well. And, of course, the fabulous fourth hour, known as The Last Call, will be on at 10 o'clock tonight. And we'll see if Paul's in studio or if him and Strip have gone to fisticuffs. So that's that. That's kind of on tap. So joining me to my left, the one and only, your fans know you as CD Poe.
Yeah.
but in reality, it's Chris Duvall. And
Yeah.
thanks for joining us here on the show again. Welcome back to the studio.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be permission to treat him as a hostile witness? Is that?
Yeah. No. Yeah, it's great to be back. So I'm here. And I've been working on some more artwork. We had there was a show at the Kitsap Mall put on by the most awesome Michael Potter. If he's listening, go dude. And it's the Pacific Northwest Comic Toy and Gaming Convention. He's planning on doing 3 smaller type shows a year. He's chosen the venue as the Kitsap Mall because we can just kind of set up shop in the middle of the mall and people can come in. There's no admission. People could just wander by. So I had a table at that show June 14th, Saturday, which was really awesome. Got to meet some cool people, do some sketches, sell some art, and there were a couple of really neat artists there. A gentleman by the name of Mark Brill, who, for all you geeks out there who back in the day remember Egghead Software, the brick and mortar stores. And you probably remember like the catalogs, and they had Professor Egghead.
Yeah.
You know, Mark Brill was like an illustrator who did like tons of those illustrations for like 6 years in that catalog. And he's also worked on some artwork for some of the old school Sierra games back in the day. So he really neat guy. Got to meet him and got a funny story about him. Maybe I'll tell later because I'm still kind of doing the intro thing. And then GameCon's coming up, which... we can lead into talking about that in a little bit, and I've got some information from them. I'm a Kickstarter backer for that. And basically, I'm just trying to reach out and work with people to build like a nerd geek empire on Kitsap.
Nice. And GameCon, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
GameCon coming up July 5th and 6th. Doors open at 10 a.m. both days
GameCon!
At the Kitsap Conference Center. And as you and I talked before the show, there's still some limited space available for what's the right word? Art? No, not just artists, but
it's kind of
vendors.
Open. Vendors.
Yeah.
It's kind of open to right now. It sounds like they have space in the convention center itself, and then also outside on the boardwalk. I don't remember the official name. I'll look it up in a minute. Excuse me. They have some space outside still, and they're kind of open to, it's GAM Con 2014 stands for Gaming, Anime, and Music. So they're going to have lots of a variety of things. It's the first year they're doing this. Again, they started a Kickstarter program. What do we call that thing? Kickstarter to raise money to get this going, and so I went in as a backer, which got me a table there for 2 days. So I'm at table number 3. Yay.
3, wow!
I know, right?
That's like you're their third favorite backer. Is that what that means?
I don't know. I think there was like 30 some odd artist tables or something.
Nice,
so.
But you're number 3.
Yeah, so it's kind of, yeah.
So if you want to check out the website too, as we talk about this, you can head over to gamconvention.com. I will tell you that one of my favorite local bands, the Iverson Brothers, will be playing there. And if you haven't had a chance to check out the Iverson Brothers, they've actually got a really good sound. So kudos to them.
Yeah.
The D20 Brass Band, they're a band that plays all the themes from video games and things. That intrigues me.
I know, right?
That totally intrigues me.
I'll be honest, I hadn't heard of them until... Well, I take that back. I think I remember seeing something regarding them at Emerald City Con earlier this year. Mm-hmm. I don't remember if it was like a flyer or they had a table there or something. There's just so much to take in at Emerald City Con, and after a while, you just kind of... your brain melts. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I'm kind of intrigued by that. Kind of a nerd brass band. It's like if Canadian brass played D&D.
Yeah, I'll read you what's on their website. It says, forged in the fires of Mount Doom, otherwise known as Seattle. The D20 Brass Band, that's what it says. D20 Brass Band plays all of your favorite music from the video games, movies, and television you love, and whips it all up into a funky groove reminiscent of old school classics like James Brown, The Meters, and Slime the Family Stone. So if they're good, it will be totally worth checking out.
Oh yeah.
But they do have some limited spots available for vendors and exhibitors. So head over to gamconvention.com. We'll talk about that more as we work through the show. So talk about the event at the mall first. The first time, I remember one of the ones in the mall. Do we have St. Paul? Do we? Oh, let's
I'm here.
Let's bring St. Paul on the line. St. Paul, thanks for calling. Where are you calling from? First time caller?
First time caller, long time listener. Make it dittos to you.
He's calling for your calves.
I guess so. My amazing calves.
Calfzilla. Hashtag.
Can I just say this? Yesterday, I was on the ferry yesterday for a couple of back and forth to Seattle, and the entire time I was on the ferry, all I kept thinking about was Calfzilla.
That's right. That's right. Calfzilla. Yeah. For those of you who do not check out my Facebook page, there's many references to my amazing calves, and I have nicknamed him Calfzilla.
And sandwiches.
Calfzilla and sandwiches. And
the most amazing part about Calfzilla is that what most people won't realize is that that's what Kevin has named his yearling Black Angus cow that he intends to completely slaughter and consume.
Yes.
To the behest of all of his extremely liberal friends.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where you're going out. For now. So Paul, I don't know if you heard the intro. We're talking with Chris Duval, otherwise known as CD Poe.
Hey, St. Paul.
And he's been on the show before.
Yeah.
And we're talking GameCon, which is coming up. We're talking the event that was just at the Kitsap Mall. We're talking artists. We're talking support the local art scene, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, and there's another.
That's excellent.
Since I talked to you, I actually, within the last 24 hours, got a hold of somebody, worked on a flyer for, and we'll have a table at another small event in Chimicum, of all places.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Chimicum is having an event?
Yeah, dude, this is a great, it's not even really a story, it's just kind of a, I spend too much time on Facebook, and people find me sometimes, which is weird. But anyways, I was, I was looking at, there's a local Native American artist, actually, who's starting to do very well. Jeffrey, I always butcher his name. I apologize, Jeffrey. Jeffrey Verege, Veregge, I believe. Anyways, he's got a great style. It's kind of like, pop culture art meets the Native American kind of totem style. Mm-hmm. It's really, really, really awesome stuff. And anyways, a guy that knows him was talking about how he's going to actually, he's the one that's going to be organizing, there's some nerd comedy, a nerd stand-up at GameCon.
Nerd comedy.
Yeah, I know,
that's
right?
Awesome.
Wait, hold on. Kevin K-Dog Chambers needs to enter that competition. Can we make that happen? In fact, can we broadcast live by any chance?
I don't know if I know any nerd jokes is the problem. What you think. See, what Paul thinks is nerd is anybody who watches Big Bang Theory, and I think the people of this would eat me for breakfast and not find my stuff funny whatsoever.
I don't think so. I mean, you're quirky.
I'm quirky.
You've got cool calves, and you like sandwiches.
I have amazing calves.
Well, so I think you'd fit right in. You've got that look.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
But anyways,
Lord.
I like this. This is just a gratification hour for K-Dog. That's outstanding. We need to have these more often.
Yeah.
I was such a geek in school that the people used to walk around and look at me and say, "I'm not an animal. I'm an athlete," because I used to play on the football team. And it was the only thing that I was good at. But thank you for pointing out again and making my life miserable and suggesting that Kevin Chambers again is the big dog on campus, and I'm just a lonely nothing. So, welcome back to Geek.
Now that you've learned your place, it's taken us over 5 years, but St. Paul has finally learned his place. All right, so Chimicum.
Yeah. So,
do they have running water and power in Chimicum?
I honestly don't know.
Are the bathrooms part of the house, or are they out back?
Yes.
Oh my God! Chimicum must be like Belfair, a third world country.
Hey, well, nobody from Chimicum's going to call and complain because they don't have internet in Chimicum.
Oh, dude, that's harsh, man.
I know. I got to pick on Chimicum.
So, anyways, so I was talking to this gentleman, Steve Strout is his name, and Anyways, he had somebody back out on him doing some flyers for a show that he was doing. So I put together a couple of flyers. I posted them on my Facebook. And it's basically, it's called a comic book swap meet. And there will be comics and people hanging out there and games and toys. And there's going to be cosplay. I think I had to introduce you to that term.
I asked
Yes.
cosplay.
Yeah.
I had to ask Chris at work this week because we work at the same place. I had to ask Chris. I said, "So what exactly is cosplay?"
Yeah.
Because I keep hearing it and I don't know what it is. So
So
By the way, season
got
finale
on demand at
cosplay
home, right?
Thursday night, 8 p.m. Sci-Fi Channel.
why are you promoting shows that are on during this show, you moron? Paul is a big fan of cosplay.
well, you know,
He dresses up as a Templar Knight all the time.
really,
Yeah.
I dress up like other things, but
What do you dress up as?
stuff.
Oh, please tell me it's a furry.
No,
I'm just kidding.
no. I'm
As a furry. Oh,
no,
strip would be like a furry.
I dressed up as Rob Zombie one year.
Did you really?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
You're a
And-
big horror movie buff too, so
I
that
am-
plays
I
right
am.
in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, every year I do a 30 days of horror for 30 days in October, leading up to October 31st. I watch a horror movie and then post stuff on Facebook about it. I've been doing that for like 3 years now.
You know, I've decided I'm going to do 30 days of horror as well, and then I'm just going to get a divorce. So 30 days of horror, and then a divorce, and then next year 30 days of horror, and then a
Wow.
divorce. It'll be perfect.
That's yeah. That's
Well, no,
exciting.
we've talked about this. So let me ask you a question because, and Paul will appreciate this because in his relationship, he is very supportive of his wife's hobbies.
Right.
So she's very big into the rodeo, into horses, and all that kind of stuff. And Paul's very supportive of that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of jokes that get made about guys
Yeah.
that do what you do, whether it be cosplay or the
Right.
comics or anime or whatever. But you have a very supportive.
Oh yeah, I have a business manager and agent, also known as my beautiful and wonderful wife. And if she's listening, hi honey, I love you.
See, like I gave you a free plug to.
But yeah, we've been as of next year we'll have been married for 20 years. So this year is our 19-year anniversary, and she's my booth babe. She hangs out at the table with me, and I can talk to people and draw, and she handles all the account stuff, like taking money from people for art that I do for them. So,
And she gives you some input too sometimes, right?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's been times where she's like, all right, you just need to back away from the artwork, because I'll be sitting there.
By the way,
Yeah.
Kevin,
Oh.
that's how successful relationships work. The man does allow the woman input, does take advice. You know, just saying.
Yes.
And I still get sandwiches.
And you get sandwiches,
I do.
which I think that's how a relationship works. Is
I
the
get-
man gets sandwiches.
I get coffee every morning too.
Do you really? I hate coffee, man. Coffee
Well, you're
is so
lame.
gross.
You're lame.
Hot cocoa that's the way to go.
Okay, well you could have like a mocha. That's kind of a
It has
compromise.
coffee in it, man. It's
So?
got coffee in it.
Oh, you're
The
such
taste of coffee makes me want to run out of a 24.
you're a
building.
dork.
It's horrible, man. Coffee's gross.
Okay, so anyways,
Yes.
back to Chimicum.
Back
I
to
think we were
Chimicum.
talking. So
We started this conversation out about Chimicum
Right.
and the event, and so you made
So I'm doing these
flyers.
flyers August 23rd at the community center there.
Mm-hmm.
The address is on the flyer. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but August 23rd from like I think it's like 10 to 5 or 10 to 7. And so yeah, and they're actually going to have a replica. Now I know this is probably going to be above your head. But
Okay,
I'll
try me.
explain it.
Try me.
You'll be able to take your picture with a replica of the TARDIS from Doctor Who. So for some people, that's going to be kind of cool.
That'd be kind of cool.
But
Wait, a replica of who?
the TARDIS, Doctor Who,
you watch Doctor Who, Paul?
blue police box spins around, goes back in time.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah. So
In other words, neither one of us have a clue what you're talking about.
So you know, there's people who like Doctor Who, and there's people who just don't or have no clue, and that's cool. I'm not a big Whovian myself. I am familiar with it mainly because my son watches all the new stuff, so I'm kind of familiar with it. But you know, the idea is that there's a bunch of guys, and I'm starting to get into this, and I'm going to help. with PR and getting the word out to people about some of the stuff locally. Is we're trying to build some things, an art community, kind of a geek community, if you will, and kind of get some events and things going on this side of the water. Everything right now is pretty much centered either in Seattle. There's Jet City Con, which I will also have a table at, by the way, in Tacoma in November. But we're trying to get some things set up going here. They may have some very small, humble roots, but that's San Diego Comic-Con started off 40 years ago as basically like a room in a basement with like 10 people or something. So yeah, Chimacum. It's where it's at.
Of all places, Chimacum.
Yeah.
I think we should make you our official correspondent of geekdom.
I would be honored.
Paul, you okay with that? Can we make him our official geekdom correspondent?
Silence.
Paul? And he was gone.
Oh, no.
He is the best co-host ever. All right.
I don't know how to take that. I mean, it's like, I don't know. Maybe
he just slammed the phone down. He's like, what?
Damn it.
A geekdom correspondent? What is this, The Daily Show? All right. So that's August 23rd, you said?
August 23rd from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., I believe it is. It might be 5 p.m., but either way it starts, 10 a.m. Starts at 10 a.m.
I make a lot of fun. Are you back, Paul?
Yeah.
The kid's crying. Kid just found out who his father is. All right. I poke a lot of fun at Chimacum, but let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Is this indicative of the growth that this genre has seen when in regards to anime and comics and this type of artist work, when you even see a small community like Chimacum that does an organized kind of gathering like this?
Yeah. Well, and I think I would say yes to some degree. I think I know growing up, a lot of the stuff that I was interested in was very much quote not cool. I was kind of the loner geek. I was not a jock. I think it's only because I was always a really tall, big guy that I didn't get swirlies on a weekly basis. But believe me, there was other shit that people put me through. So, but I think it seems like, while this kind of sounds kind of trite, the whole geek is chic is a true statement. I think more and more people are kind of becoming, if not knowledgeable of it, but more aware of the geek culture, whether it's comics. And, geek can be anything that you, quote, geek out about. I don't... I used to be kind of like, you can't be a geek unless you like, computers and games and shit. But, if you really are totally passionate about something, you're kind of a geek about it.
Sure, yeah.
But I think, the stereotypical geek nerd thing, comics, video games, anime especially, I think more and more people are they're more exposed to it, at least. I mean, you've got a whole stream of stuff on Netflix that has like all kinds of anime, I mean, it's none of the really good 18 and over stuff, but no, I'm just kidding. I love you, honey. But they do have the Sailor Moon stuff, and,
right?
I remember growing up with stuff like Robotech and Star Blazers. And,
yeah, you and I talked about Star Blazers.
Oh yeah, I could go on.
Love that.
So yeah, I think smaller. It's kind of right outside Port Townsend, which actually, from what I understand, this guy's from Port Townsend, which is a very artsy community. And I think, this venue is kind of a way to, it's a little bit closer than if you had to go all the way into Port Townsend. It's kind of a halfway. That's what he was describing to me. It's kind of a halfway for, people coming from, people could come in from Port Townsend. People could come over the Hood Canal Bridge from the other side. And so it's kind of a central point.
Sure.
It's kind of small and not very well known, but that's where places.
So when we come out of the commercial break, we're going to talk about the next big event, which is July 5th and 6th. And there was something you said that was going to be there
Yes.
that makes me very happy
Yes.
as a video game geek.
And there's something else I found out about that I'm going to mention too.
Okay. Well, then we have surprises and things coming around.
Bum,
So
bum, bum,
again, you can call him Chris Duval, you can call him CD Poe, it doesn't matter. It's the same guy.
Just don't call me late for dinner.
And again, I showed this when he was here last time, but if you didn't see it, this is the I don't know how well that shows up on camera, but that's my Seahawk minion, which by the way, he is not a soccer fan, but he does have amazing calves. So
Talk about being a soccer fan. U.S. is in the second round.
Yes. Yes, they are.
cool. Doesn't make it a sport. An activity, a contest, a multinational celebration. Sure, but not a sport.
Singing karaoke.
I didn't say karaoke was a sport either.
I
I didn't say it was a sport.
that's
I
your-
just said it was more entertaining then.
That's a,
Yeah. Well, I'll bet let your wife know you don't like to listen to her sing. That's awesome. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Paul will jump in with some questions as well.
Yay.
And we'll keep this thing going. Again, CD Poe or Chris Duval, call him what you want to. We call them other things at work, but I can't say those on the radio. We're back after this. Stay tuned.
Hey, it's Kevin with the Outlaw Radio Network. When it came time for the guys with Outlaw Radio to get our tuxes for the Habitat for Humanity of Kitsap County's Raise the Roof event, we honestly had no idea where to get them. Then we found Judy at Judy's Sewing in East Bremerton. As evidenced by the name, Judy's Sewing does tailoring, alterations, and repair. She also does tuxedo rentals starting at $69, bridal party dresses for $69, and bride's dresses starting at only $189. Plus, we also learned that at Judy's Sewing, not only does she offer military members prices that are lower than they're going to find at the Navy Exchange, she also prioritizes their orders. That means if you're in the military, your needs move right to the front of the line. It's a special touch of service you can only get from a locally based business like Judy's Sewing. Judy's Sewing at the corner of Fairgrounds Road in Central Valley in East Bremerton, right near Handy Andy's. Or call Judy at 360-662-1212. 662-1212. Judy's Sewing, a local business that's proud to support her community.
And now, reason number 27 why you should choose Gordon Sound. Experience is everything.
You know, it's funny. Some of us will never ever find true love. Like, take, for instance, me. And I'm pretty sure that guy right there. And that lady with the sidebars. And basically everybody at table 9.
Don't hire that guy. Call the most experienced DJs and sound and lighting professionals. Gordon Sound, 9476 Silverdale Way. Or call 360-692-2957. Gordon Sound, you rock, we roll.
Heather Madden, former machinist, wins success as a skilled professional rock star.
No more working dusty old machine shops for me. Being the boss of my own professional rock band has improved my life in every way, and I owe it all to the cool gear at Kitsap Music.
What do you want? Substantial spare time? Groupies? Leather pants? Use only certified cool products from Kitsap Music.
The Kitsap Humane Society is an independent nonprofit committed to providing positive, life-changing solutions to people and companion animals. Our vision is that every adoptable animal has a home. In 2010, we rehomed 4,111 pets. For more information on our programs, services, and animals available for adoption, visit us on the web at kitsap-humane.org. Kitsap Humane Society. Rescue, rehabilitate, rehome.
Hi, this is Stephen Gardner from the Kitsap Sun. There are 3 things we try to do on the Kitsap Caucus blog. Give you more about the story that didn't fit in the regular piece. Give you the story behind the story. We also try to draw attention to other news you might have missed. And sometimes, I like to poke fun at Port Orchard. Read the Kitsap Caucus blog at thekitsapsun.com.
The Legacy Group in Silverdale is a well-respected independent mortgage banker, absolutely committed to helping Kitsap County families on their path to home ownership. As an employee-owned company, the Legacy Group has a strong stake in your success, and they want to be your lifetime partner in helping you develop a strong real estate portfolio. Call the Legacy Group in Silverdale today at 698-6440 and find out how they can help you get started on the road to home ownership. 698-6440 for the Legacy Group, a lending experience that's a little different and a lot smarter.
I'm going to handle this now. You ready, Strip? Is St. Paul on the line with us? St. Paul?
Uh-oh. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so check this out.
It's on.
Do you have a softball game on July 13th?
I have no idea. Is that a Sunday?
Yeah, it's a Sunday. If you do, if you do, you don't anymore. Because you got to be in studio. Because I'm going to be late on the 13th. I'm being drugged against my will to a soccer game to watch the Sounders play the Portland Timbers.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks to Mikey Malone, who wants to convert me over to liking soccer. So, softball games have been banished that day. It's International Make K-Dog Watch Soccer and Cry Day.
Well, you're really bitter.
I don't know why you would A, do that to me, or B, do that to yourself. We all know that you hate soccer, so...
Mikey Malone wants the opportunity to try to convert me. He bought the tickets. He's paying for whatever alcohol I consume at the stadium.
Well, see, there you go.
See, that's the catch there, then, isn't it?
What's that?
That's the catch. He's going to buy all the alcohol, and you're just going to get tanked.
I'm going to get tanked. And then I got to come into work the next day.
And I'll be watching.
And this guy will come over to my desk and go, "Hey, K-Dog, do you have a hangover?" You know.
What do you think of that there soccer game?
I'll be like, my head. Anyway, so St. Paul, the voice of reason, joins us from the phone. Where are you at, by the way? Are you en route to your your softball game?
I will be here in about 15 minutes.
How come you weren't in studio? Nobody cares. All right. So, and then you're coming to studio after the game. Is that the plan?
Yeah.
Okay. Just checking. And you're bringing both kids with you?
Well, I'm not going to leave them at the ball field.
Okay, just checking. All right. Okay.
Maybe
All right.
Maybe you're one of them dads that goes online and looks up how long your kidneys are sitting in the hospital before they kill themselves.
We are going to talk about that story later. We're going to talk about that later.
Not this guy.
Not you.
That's right. Not me.
Because that's a passive way to kill your kids. It's just not. Yeah. All right. So we'll talk about that later. Again, we're joined by Chris Duvall, as my voice cracked as I've just entered puberty. We're joined by Chris Duvall, otherwise known as CD Poe.
How are you?
And so, how do we reference? Like, are we going to say you're a local artist? Local local artist. Is that fair?
Yeah, I do art, so I
artist,
guess you could call me an artist, local artist. You could just call me local awesome guy.
Local awesome guy. Yeah.
I'm
geekdom expert, maybe.
Oh, I wouldn't go that. Well, I'm kind of a I would say I'm a geek, jack of all trades, master of none.
Okay.
Because I know a little bit of everything.
So you're an all-around geek.
Yeah, I try.
Okay.
My forte is kind of more, the art side of things. I don't boast having absolute knowledge of all the way back to like X-Men #1, which was released in 1963.
Yeah.
And like every single, I won't sit there and go, oh, but that goes against episode 9 at 3 minutes and 52 seconds when Captain Picard said this, but then they said later on he did this in episode 12 at 5 minutes and 20 seconds, which totally contradicts canon. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
I'll keep that in mind. You're so bizarre, man.
I know, right?
All right. So
GameCon.
GameCon.
So I got it. I don't.
July 5th and 6th.
Yeah, and I don't want to
conference center.
I don't want to steal your thunder, but I got to talk about this thing.
Okay, talk about. So is yours cooler than what I'm going to tell?
Well, I was going to talk about that thing that I was telling you about.
Okay, tell me about it. Then go ahead.
You know that thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a big video game geek.
Okay, so I'm looking this up here because I keep looking at my phone. I don't know if anybody can see me. I don't care. I keep looking at my phone because I actually have a
camera right there.
Hi, Mom. So I keep looking at my phone because I actually have this email that was it was a press kit that was sent to the Kitsap, one of the Kitsap newspapers, and so Blake, the guy who's spearheading this GameCon thing, sent it to me to talk about stuff on your show.
Okay.
So GameCon will be having the Puget Sound rolling video games truck.
Nice.
And you can check it out at rollingvideogames.com.
I'll go do that now.
I know, you should do that. And it's going to be parked outside the front of the convention. From what I understand, it's like a party bus for gaming nerds. So they've got like consoles in there, and it's all K-Dog's pulling up some pretty.
Hey,
sweet
Strip,
shots.
can you bring that up? RollingVideogames.com.
Yeah, and so they're going to be parked outside the con the whole time, from what I understand.
Oh, this is like a full trailer. Like you could fit 2 cars in this thing. That's how long it is.
Yeah. So
and then inside is
check that out, man.
That is outstanding. Inside are video game consoles. They just get to play video games in there.
No, I don't have.
I would never leave the house.
Well, that's kind of what I was. I mean, I could live in that.
I could too.
I mean, you just put a sleeping bag down the back and you're good to go.
That's right.
You know, who needs family?
Sleep on the roof.
Just
listen, I hate to cut through all this geek bullshit right here, but I have one very serious question for you. I need to know if Rowena Baccarin off of Serenity is going to be there, or off of Firefly.
Who? Sorry, you cut out
Kevin,
from
you shouldn't bother. Kevin, you don't even know what I'm talking about.
No, that was Chris that said who, because your cell phone's breaking up because you're not in the studio, you whack. Who you said it broke up when you were asking.
Yeah.
Kevin, just be quiet. Rowena Baccarin.
Not that I'm aware of, although that would be completely and totally freaking cool.
Is that the girl that was also in V? The one with the who had the short hair?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. She's kind of a babe.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Can I say this without too much ridicule?
Sure.
I'm such a Kaylee fan off of Firefly. It's ridiculous.
Oh my God, I got to meet her a couple years ago at Emerald City Con, Jewel State. Oh, she is so cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm with you, brother. You don't feel ashamed at all. Hold your head high.
I do. I just love that girl. I'm friends with her and a couple of the girls on Battlestar Galactica on Twitter.
Yeah.
And we've had some interesting conversations. And can I just say this? They are seriously a class act.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I got a chance to actually talk with her a little bit because the line was there was a fair amount of folks, but there was little bit of a lull. So I actually got to chat with her for a few minutes, and she's just really sweet. And it was just really cool. Kind of just it was like hanging out with like someone in which I kind of was, I guess. It was like hanging out with just like one of your normal buds, and yeah, she was really cool.
Yeah, she's totally like that. In fact, everything was cool between us. I was totally dreaming about how if my marriage didn't work out, I was going to ask her out on a date, and then she made this tweet that said, "Last line a man who wants to date me will ever state is, 'Let's go camping.'" I was like, dang,
amazing.
That ruined it.
Yeah, there you go. Well, there you are. So there you have it.
So let me read to you what this is really quick, Paul. In fact, you if Hunter can hear the sound of my voice, your oldest son, you need to get him out of the room. Here's what this is. This is a truck that has a big trailer on the back end of it, okay? In the big trailer are 4 46-inch televisions that are hooked up to 4 systems of your choice, either Wii's, 360s, or PS3s. And then it's all surround sound wired, all set up. They got vibrating chairs in the thing, and you book them, and they come out to your place for parties.
Yeah.
So you could totally have you and 15 of your closest friends pile into the back of this van, and play like some massive 16-player Halo.
Dude, let's do it.
I think we should. My birthday is in a couple of weeks.
I'll help pull some money together.
All right, let's do that. That would be outstanding.
How much?
$199 for a 1-hour party with the game coach.
No, we need more than that.
$299 for a 2-hour party. $225 for a 2-hour party on any Monday through Thursday. We need more than 2 hours.
And then it says call us for.
Yeah.
I'm sure
for special events, tournaments, fundraisers, festivals, church events, school rewards, and carnivals, and K-Dog's birthday.
Right.
Right. Yeah, we really need to make that happen.
Cool.
We need like a 5-hour party and barbecue.
Yeah.
At Paul's house.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to be a GameCon. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
That's
and they're also something that I read about in this email that I wasn't aware of, and it kind of goes along with the whole A in GameCon anime. They're going to have a streaming anime with permission from Funimation in the anime viewing room. So it sounds like they're going to have like a whole plethora of anime just kind of streaming. And I think Funimation, for the uninitiated to anime, Funimation is like the primary company that distributes anime to the United States from Japan. So everything from the like Sailor Moon, Black Butler.
Wow. Star Blazers.
Star Blazers, yeah. Bubblegum Crisis. Bubblegum Crash.
I haven't heard of any of these besides Sailor Moon.
Well, like I said, I know a little bit of everything. So, Battle Angel Alita. Kind of an highly underrated anime. Very cool story, though. Check it out.
Okay. I'll have to look into that. Paul, do you ever watch any anime?
Alrighty, then.
How do you do a show with him when he's just not there? Okay.
Talk to yourself.
That's happens more than you'd like to know. GameCon again, July 5th and 6th at the Kitsap Conference Center in Bremerton. And so as I understand, talk about the layout. So if you've ever been there before, in the conference center is actually this big open exhibition space. And they're going to fully utilize that. But as you were telling me, they're also going to have a lot of stuff outside.
Yeah, there's going to be... I'm trying to look at the... okay. So there'll be spaces for... there's going to be an artist alley where there's going to be artists and crafters. When it says crafters, I know at Emerald City Con they've had people who make like dolls in superhero shapes or things like that, or other things other than just artwork. But there'll also be exhibitor booths, so if there's some larger companies or vendors who want to set up shop inside, that'll be in there. And then on the Lewis Mentor Boardwalk, which I guess is the official name of the outdoor boardwalk area
down below by the ramp to the Port Orchard boat.
That's
kind
of
down below.
Yeah, that's kind of what I understand. Like the festival area, like where they set up all the stuff for
Blackberry Festival. And
stuff.
Blackberry
Blackberry Festival and all that. That's kind of what I understand. They're going to have stuff all in that area too, so you'll have the.
So even if you're not going to pay to get in, you'll be able to check out the stuff that's outside.
That's kind of what I understood. That there's going to be kind of the outdoor festivities and stuff, which everybody would have access to. I assume. I mean, I can't imagine they're setting up like SWAT barricades or something. You have a badge. At the street corner or something.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Plus, it's a public walkway.
Well, exactly. So, so it's kind of that people can have access to stuff and say, hey, what's this about? Oh, look, a rolling video game truck. Yay.
I know.
And then, but they can also go in and check some stuff out. So,
and then maybe seeing the stuff outside will inspire them to want to go see what cool stuff is inside.
Yeah, exactly.
That's outstanding. That'll be good. Right? That'll be good fun. That'll be nice.
Yeah.
And then where the bands are outside, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, the music venues are outside. Checking to see if there's other cool stuff. I mean, there's lots of cool stuff.
Yeah.
But so here's the little bit. Comedian and blogger Steve Strout. So that was the gentleman I was telling you about who's going to have this show August 23rd in Chimacum.
Mm-hmm.
You can check him out at www.thestevestrout.com. His last name is Strout. He'll be holding a stand-up comedy panel with 4 guest panelists related to gaming. So that's what that's all about. There's actually going to be a stand-up comedy thing. So
nice. So GameCon is all ages. I'm checking this out on the website.
Right.
If they're 12 or under, they must be accompanied by a parent or guardian at all times. Minors from 13 to 17 are recommended to be with a parent or guardian, but not required.
Yeah. And they're going to have a couple of, I guess there's a local, I've heard of it. I've not listened to it, but hosts of the local podcast, the Digital and Dice podcast, are going to be doing a live show and Q&A. And also there's a local author, Lee Hayden, released a novel called Breakwater. And he's going to be holding a lecture about building and writing non-human characters. So
nice.
Yeah.
So this will really have a good appeal for everybody in general.
I think so.
From the bands, which have their own, kind of group.
Yeah.
To the anime folks, to the video games, to the just the outdoor atmosphere part of this. I think it'll be a good draw for a lot of people, except for the people that are old and think everything's too loud.
Well, there is that. But well, I know some people my age still think everything's too loud. But whatever. Your age is kind of a mental state in a lot of cases. But and that's going back to my friend Michael Potter, who set up the shows in the mall. He looks to try and create, set up something that all ages, all folks, have access to. Hence, setting up something smallish in the mall. It is growing. When he first started up, he had something like, I think, maybe only 10 tables. And this last time, I think we had 37 vendors and 4 artists, of which I was one. He's looking to expand and have a show on Bainbridge, and also possibly one in Tacoma. But the idea is he sources local artists, so you kind of have to be a local dude to have a table. At least that's what he reserves the tables primarily for. I think that's what it's about, is trying to build a community. And I think one of the coolest things that I had happen was I appeared at the show in February, and one of the 9-year-old boy, just his name's Keegan. Keegan, you rock. He got a Jonah Hex. It was a comic book character. There was a movie made of it. Megan Fox is in. So there's that. But I did a sketch.
One thing about comics, there's always hot girls in comics. Well, always.
So I did a sketch for this young boy, and apparently he really liked it, because his mom posted on Facebook that he really loved it, and he was going to be saving his allowance to get like a series of sketches from me at the June show, and he did. Really? He came up and he had his money and he laid it all out there, and he's like, okay, I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and it was really cool just to be able to do that, and just kind of sit there and draw and talk to people.
And you're making an impact. He's probably going to wind up drawing when he gets older.
I can dream. Yeah, I can only hope.
Look at you shaping America's youth.
I know, right? So, that's really frightening. Of course, I do have a 16-year-old, so
see,
I've already had practice warping children.
Shaping America's youth.
Come here, son.
Yeah.
Come to daddy.
So if you want to get more information about this,
I apologize. Yeah, that sounded really wrong.
Really evil. If you want to get more information, go check out the website, gamconvention.com.
Yeah.
Again, it's right around the corner. It's next weekend. So next Saturday and Sunday. So here's what I would do if I were you. I would, on Saturday, I would be down there at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
When doors open.
Right.
Spend the whole day at GameCon. Find Chris. Tell him we said that he's a swell guy.
Yeah.
And that after that, head down to the fairgrounds to Blue Jacket Stadium. Your Kitsap Blue Jackets play against the Victoria Harbor Cats in the annual fireworks game. So cool. Even though it's on the 5th, it's the 4th of July fireworks game. The team didn't want to compete against other fireworks shows, so they decided, well, we'll do it on the 5th. And special tickets are required. Head on down to the fairgrounds. First pitch is not till 7:30, so you got plenty of time.
Yeah.
To spend the day at GameCon and then go check out the ball game and fireworks show.
And I have to say, I was so.
And there won't be a tie, just so that you're aware. But go ahead.
Today was a fantastic game that did not involve a tie. I will let you know, between the Netherlands and Mexico. So whatever. But I was getting ready to come over here. And I had something for you, but I was just so I don't know what it was. Just the thought of basking in the. I can't even say this with a straight face.
You can't even get it out without giggling.
So, anyways, no, I had a print for you. I was going to present it to you on the show, but guess what? You're going to have to come down to GameCon in order to get it.
Okay. All right.
So you'll have to come down.
Is Paul back?
He is.
No, I never left. I just put it on mute because I didn't want you to hear the stuff I was doing in the background.
No, well, we asked you questions. You didn't reply. You were gone. Nothing happened. I thought aliens abducted my co-host. I don't know.
Oh, stop it, Kevin.
He goes on. He does.
You sound like my wife.
I'm not going to comment to that. All right. So, what time is your game? What time do we lose you, Paul, for your game tonight?
I'm on the road to it right now, so I'm going to stay on the phone. until pretty much game time.
What time is game time? 8:30.
Yep.
Okay. So let's do this then, Paul.
Have you heard from Dawn? I haven't.
No,
heard from her.
she's moving. Last week and this week she's moving. We knew she wasn't going to be here.
Okay.
That's another reason why I'm the head honcho around here, because I know what's going on. All right, so let's do this, Paul. When we come back...
Hey, Kevin, here's a question.
Yes.
Can we move the shows to, like, Tuesdays or Wednesdays?
Sure, if you'd like to. 9 o'clock?
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, 9 o'clock?
No, we got to keep the time the same. Isn't that what you always say?
No, it just needs to be the same every week. It needs to be consistent. I know what you're trying to do here, Paul, but it's not going to work.
Brother.
Hey, let me ask you a question. There's so many stories that we need to talk about tonight, and I'm only going to have you for parts of it. So if I was going to say, what's the first story that you want to discuss?
Yeah.
That we're going to do at the top of the 8 o'clock hour, what would it be?
The border.
The border?
Yeah, what's going on at the border?
Okay, all right. And Paul is referencing the reports that a Mexican helicopter flew across the border. Some reports are saying that they fired at border. What?
No, that's a very small part of the story.
I know that, but that's part of it.
Immigration flux, brother.
I know, but that's part of it.
Oh, yeah, that is part of it. That is part of it.
Yeah. I hate you. All right. Anyway, some reports are the helicopter shot at Border Patrol agents after it flew over the border. Now there's other reports coming out of Mexico City where the president of Mexico says, no, that they didn't shoot at anybody. So that's part of it. Paul is correct, though. There's a whole bunch of a push that's been happening in the last year or so specifically to try to get something done with immigration reform. We'll talk about that. I'm surprised you want to talk about the cesspool that's going on in the VA, which really is my pressing story, but we'll talk about that later and a whole lot more. So, Chris, are you going to hang out for a little bit?
If you don't mind.
You want to hang out?
Yeah, I'll hang
All
out.
right. You can be my official co-host when we lose Paul.
We'll get him to talk some politics. I love it.
Oh,
yeah, it'll be great. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
Excellent.
All right, so we got break coming up around the corner. If you want to be a part of the show, the phone lines are open at 253-617-1440. As soon as St. Paul is off the phone, then you can call in and share with us your thoughts. His strip is like, no. Sometimes we have more than one line, sometimes we don't.
Can I rephrase that for you, Kevin? Because I think that line was great that you just used.
What's that?
If you want to be part of the show, you should have started your own show.
No. See, when Paul calls in with his cell phone, we don't have a line.
Oh, that's right, because he's using Skype when he's at home.
Yes.
Okay. So if any phone calls come in, just hang up on him.
If it makes you feel better, I got my internet fixed at the house.
I mean, I can always just add them into the call directly.
Can you? Oh, just add them directly in, then that's fine.
They won't know that they're coming on the air.
Who cares?
That could be really interesting.
This is the internet, man. This is the Wild West. This is.
Yeah, well, anybody who calls into the show while I'm going off on a tangent or a diatribe talking about something that's really serious, they're really risking their own life and limb. You know what I'm saying?
You know what, Paul? That might in itself be worth watching what happens. All right, we got bump plans, so stay there, Paul. We'll go to the top of the hour break with NPR News. When we come back, what's going on with the borders? At what point do we do something to stop the borders from leaking like a sieve? Or does anything need to be done? What's that?
It's a great conversation to have.
It's a very good conversation to have. It is one that has to be addressed at one point, one way or the other.
By the way, my co-host represents the original borderland security.
That's right. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, all of you guys are illegal immigrants that didn't have our permission to come here. So keep that in mind. Stick around. Outlaw Radio Network, edgemediasource.com. News is next.
The Outlaw Radio Network.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. President Obama plans to nominate a former Procter & Gamble executive to lead the troubled Department of Veterans Affairs. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the president is expected to announce his choice of Bob McDonald to lead the VA on Monday.
A White House official describes McDonald as the perfect person to lead the VA during a tumultuous period. Former VA Secretary Eric Shinseki resigned under pressure last month after reports of long wait times and falsified records at VA hospitals around the country. Last week, the president's own audit found serious and systemic problems in the department, made worse by what a White House advisor described as a corrosive culture. McDonald spent 33 years at Procter & Gamble, eventually becoming CEO, where he oversaw worldwide operations and a workforce of 120,000. McDonald also spent 5 years in the Army, rising to the rank of captain after finishing near the top of his class at West Point. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
The extremist group that's taken over much of Iraq has announced the creation of an Islamic State. NPR's Alice Fordham reports the statement is a challenge to the al-Qaeda command structure.
It is a dream that lives in the depths of every Muslim believer, says the statement. It is a hope that flutters in the heart of every brave monotheist. That dream is the Caliphate, a restored Islamic state governed by a religious leader called a caliph. The announcement is made by the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, known as ISIS, who are changing their name just to the Islamic State. They say it's because they now rule over all Muslims worldwide who must now vow loyalty. Analysts see the statement as a challenge by the group's leader, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, to al-Qaeda's leadership, who have disowned him. Alice Fordham, NPR News, Baghdad.
Firefighters continue to battle a wildfire in Arizona's White Mountains. Pamela Baltimore is a National Forest spokeswoman. She says they're taking advantage of calmer winds to build containment lines around the fire.
There have been predicted gusts up to 10 miles an hour today, which was similar to yesterday, and the outlook looks great.
And Liza Simmons, a public information officer on the San Juan fire, says firefighters are doing a burnout, deliberately setting fires to help with containment.
There's certain areas that are looking good because of the burnouts that they've done and the dozer lines and hand lines that they've put in.
The fire is still at around 8 square miles. At the World Cup in Brazil today, Costa Rica beat Greece in a penalty shootout 5-3. Earlier today, Netherlands scored late, beating Mexico 2-1 on penalty. Now, that win sends the Dutch into the quarterfinals. They will now face Costa Rica. Tomorrow, France plays Nigeria, and then later, Germany faces Algeria. The United States plays Belgium Tuesday. This is NPR News from Washington. Black Entertainment Television holds its annual awards show tonight, celebrating African-American artists in show business. It's getting underway at this hour. As NPR's Neda Ulaby reports, the show, which will be hosted by comedian Chris Rock, has recently earned particularly strong ratings for the network.
For the past 2 years, the BET Awards have been the most watched awards show on cable television, at least for adults aged 18 to 49. Last year's BET Awards was the most watched show that Sunday evening, period, in spite of headliners who faced allegations of treating women violently, namely Chris Brown and R. Kelly. More than 7 million people tuned in. The show's made a point of emphasizing performances over drawn-out awards announcements. This year, Beyoncé, Jay-Z, and John Legend are scheduled to perform, as well as Lionel Richie, who will be recognized for his lifetime achievements. Neda Ulaby, NPR News.
The country's biggest gay pride parade was held in New York City today. Rainbow flags lined the street of the city's Fifth Avenue as politicians, including Governor Andrew Cuomo and the city's mayor, Bill de Blasio, walked in the parade. One of the grand marshals, Laverne Cox, an actress on the Netflix show Orange is the New Black, says she's marching for the rights of all transgender people.
I'm super proud to be sitting next to Dolores Nettles. This is Alon Nettles' mother, and Alon Nettles is an African-American trans woman who, on August 17th of last year, was beaten into a coma and 5 days later died. There's yet to be an arrest.
Marchers are also commemorating the 45th anniversary of the Stonewall Inn riots that happened in Greenwich Village. That's credited with launching the modern gay rights movement. I'm Janine Herbst, NPR News in Washington.
The Kitsap Humane Society is an independent nonprofit committed to providing positive, life-changing solutions to people and companion animals. Our vision is that every adoptable animal has a home. In 2010, we rehomed 4,111 pets. For more information on our programs, services, and animals available for adoption, visit us on the web at kitsap-humane.org. Kitsap Humane Society. Rescue, rehabilitate, rehome.
Hi, this is Stephen Gardner from the Kitsap Sun. There are 3 things we try to do on the Kitsap Caucus blog. Give you more about the story that didn't fit in the regular piece. Give you the story behind the story. We also try to draw attention to other news you might have missed. And sometimes, I like to poke fun at Port Orchard. Read the Kitsap Caucus blog at thekitsapsun.com.
The Legacy Group in Silverdale is a well-respected independent mortgage banker, absolutely committed to helping Kitsap County families on their path to home ownership. As an employee-owned company, the Legacy Group has a strong stake in your success, and they want to be your lifetime partner in helping you develop a strong real estate portfolio. Call the Legacy Group in Silverdale today at 698-6440 and find out how they can help you get started on the road to home ownership. 698-6440 for the Legacy Group, a lending experience that's a little different and a lot smarter.
The government has deliberately sought to deceive the United States by false statements and expressions of hope for continued peace.
You're listening to the Outlaw Radio Network. OutlawRadioNetwork.com.
This country can't be knocked out with one punch. We get right back up again, and when we do, the world's going to hear the roar of our engines.
All right, it's the Outlaw Radio Network. Thanks again for checking out the show. Chris Duvall will stay in studio with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. And again, you can catch him live at GameCon on July 5th and 6th at the Kitsap Conference Center in Bremerton at Table 3, which means he's the 3rd most awesome person there, which means the other 2 must be Barack Obama and the Prince. I don't know.
The Prince?
Yeah.
Of Bel-Air?
No, the Prince of, England.
Wow. Thanks.
Prince Harry.
Thanks.
He's famous on a worldwide scale, so are you.
Yeah, okay.
St. Paul, the voice of reason, joins us from a car somewhere. You're not driving and talking. Are you holding the phone up to your ear?
No, I've got it on speakerphone.
Okay, good. I don't want you to get a ticket.
Oh, good. I'm glad you don't want me to get a ticket. That's always positive.
Yeah,
well,
notice he said he doesn't want you to get a ticket, not die horribly in a crash because you're talking in your cell phone.
Actually, it would be great if you got pulled over on live radio. That would be outstanding.
We could interview the cop.
We could interview the police officer.
There you go.
Officer, do you know that St. Paul has explosives in his trunk? All right, Paul, let's talk about...
Harsh, man.
I know. I will get you into so much trouble, I swear to God.
I could smack him for you.
And no taker. Okay. Go ahead, Paul.
Oh, Lord. So, anyway, have you guys been following much about what's been going on down there on the border?
Well, which specifically are you talking about? Because the last thing I thought you meant by the border, I was totally off on, and you ridiculed me.
Okay, so listen, this week, the Border Patrol has put out a call for 42,000 pairs of gently used underwear, employment calls for dishwashers, food prep people, and I forget the other one. Anyway, essentially, though, what's happening is that there are so many folks crossing the border, and they're being given sheets of information telling them how to answer the question from U.S. Border Patrol agents. And listen, the truth is that clearly there's an organized effort to flood the borders right now, and a lot of that is coming because essentially Congress has failed to either A, act on comprehensive immigration reform, or B, failed to close the borders. Take your pick. It doesn't matter which side of the argument that you fall on.
Okay.
And then the president has basically bypassed Congress through executive order, causing Immigration and Customs Enforcement to selectively enforce the law. So you look at all 3 things together, and immigrants are flooding across the borders at unprecedented numbers, with the understanding that once they get here, they can stay. And in point of fact, approximately 37,000 a month right now are crossing the border just in Laredo, Texas alone.
Okay.
There's no accurate numbers for the entirety of the border, but in Laredo, Texas, 37,000 on average per month is crossing. That includes 10,000 unaccompanied children. Now, I want you to just let those numbers roll around in your head for a minute and marinate, because that's staggering. That's the population of Bremerton every single month just coming through Laredo, Texas. Coming here illegally, coming here with no intention of leaving, because what happens is when they get here, I don't know if you guys are aware of this or not, now because of the president's directives, and I'm not saying this is the president's fault, but what I'm saying is that as a result of his directives right now, these people are getting here, they're being given a one-way bus ticket or a plane ticket to anywhere in the country that they claim they have relatives, along with a 90-day letter of appearance. Basically, here's your letter, appear in a court in 90 days, an immigration court, and then you get to go through the process. Now, the numbers right now show that about 87% of those people never appear at the court. So, again, one town, 37,000 a month. Of the 37,000, 10,000 are unaccompanied children. That's for those of my friends who don't quite know what I mean by that. That's children that have no parent with them. And they're being told that once they get here, they can stay here. They're being found with these photocopied pieces of paper on them telling them how to answer the Border Patrol officers' questions so that they can remain in the country. This has become a humanitarian crisis in the last month and a half, last 6 to 8 weeks, to the point where, as of just a few days ago, a Mexican military helicopter crossed the border and fired rockets at U.S. Border Patrol agents. Your thoughts?
Well, two things. One, we want to be clear: no U.S. Border Patrol agents were injured in the issue. Secondly, the government of Mexico came out today and said, "Yeah, nothing was fired." I'm sorry. I'll listen to the Border Patrol guys. You guys can't even police your own lot.
Right.
Also, off of CNN, Paul, just to give you another number, CNN has a story about this. They say that U.S. authorities estimate between 60,000 to 80,000 children without parents will cross the border this year. So that's 60 to 80. Now, that's not just at the one border crossing you were referencing to, but in general. So 60 to 80,000. Now,
can I just say this too? I don't want to sound like I'm being biased, because this is Republicans and Democrats. This is a nonpartisan issue. I think that it's safe to say nobody truly knows what the numbers are. The only numbers we know for sure are the numbers of people that are apprehended by immigration and customs. And what those people are doing, just to put this in perspective for you, they are crossing the Rio Grande, no joke, getting to the other side, and then sitting there and waiting for the Border Patrol to pick them up. The Border Patrol now just basically, along the Rio Grande, drives along the riverbank with a bus picking people up. That's how ridiculous it has become. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but I seem to recall that the last, both George W. Bush and Barack Obama and all the congressmen from then to now have all promised and voted on and agreed to fund a fence. Am I not correct on that?
I know that they did. They put some funding together for the fence, but I don't think it was enough. Let me do some. I'll do some research on that. Go ahead.
Because I find it. Listen, I'm not one of these conspiracy theorists that will sit here and tell you, "Oh my gosh, our country's in danger of having being majority Latino." Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also not the kind of person who will sit here and tell you, "Oh, the world powers are trying to make this country." North America, Canada, the United States, and Mexico. I don't think that's trying to happen either. I think, honestly, what is directly trying to happen. Listen, Nancy Pelosi went to the border this weekend. Did you guys hear about this?
No.
For a photo op, where she stated on live national television, while posing with some illegals, "We're all Americans." Okay, can I just say one thing about that? No shit, it's a full fucking continent.
Let me give you that. Let me give you an article. This is from the Washington Post back in March of 2010. At that point, the Washington Post reports that the Obama administration is halting the work on the fence. That was announced by Janet Napolitano, Janet, because there was $50 million that was supposed to go to that in economic funds. The freeze on work beyond the two pilot projects in Arizona was pending a broader reassessment. According to the Washington Post, I'm going to quote this: "The move signals a likely death knell for the troubled 5-year plan to drape a chain of tower-monitored sensors and other surveillance gear across most of the 2,000-mile southern border." Let me ask a question, and I'll pose this to Paul and Chris both. Okay, if we assess that there are huge numbers of people coming across the border, and we assess that regardless of what orders you give the Border Patrol agents, they're just not staffed enough to do it. I mean, even if you said, when you find them, turn them around and kick them back over to the other side, there's just not enough Border Patrol agents to do that along that border. So, is the only scenario for both of you, either complete amnesty or build a fence? I mean, is it really that black and white?
So let me answer first, because I'm somebody who worked in immigration for 6 months before I got fed up and quit. I will say this. This is not in defense of illegal immigrants or not, because I'm a firm believer that if your first action in coming to this country is breaking the law, then we need to do something about that. I can't tell you what the answer to that is, because it is a very complicated issue. What I will tell you is that for all of the people that are here illegally already, a couple of things need to happen. We need to get them out of the shadows, number one. Number two, we need to get them to pay their taxes. That means not only employment taxes, but when they are small business owners, and a lot of them are, honestly, a lot of them are painters, they're concrete masons, they have all kinds of jobs that they do where they are, independent contractors, all that stuff. They need to pay their taxes legally and legitimately. And I'll use construction as a great example. I pump concrete. I have a competing crew that is made up of all illegal immigrants. They charge half of what I do. Okay, I called the Department of Revenue on it. They don't pay any taxes. They don't even report anything. They didn't even know this guy had employees. So clearly, and they flat out asked me, "Do you know his name? Do you know his address? Do you know his phone number? Do you know where he lives?" No, I don't. All I know is his business name and his business number. And they said, well, that doesn't help us. And I get that. I understand that. But the point is that there's no way to stop them. There's no tools in place. And they unfairly compete against me. They hurt my business because they don't do business legally, right? So I don't think many people would argue with that. I think everybody understands that. But what I think a lot of people don't understand, and this is where my empathy comes into play, is this guy who's out there illegally competing against me says, no, I want to be legal. I want to do things the right way, okay? There's no way for him to go about doing that. Did you know that? He can't go. He basically has to get arrested for something, get in trouble for something, get picked up for something. He can't there's no office for him to just walk into and say, hey, I'm here illegally. I want to be here legally. What can I do? There's nowhere for him to do that. So
and
that
you
shows
would
you how messed up the system is.
You would be okay then with a path once they've obtained entry into the country. You would be okay with a path for them to start, almost like Ellis Island was, right? I mean, wasn't that really what Ellis Island was?
Yeah,
that's correct, Kevin. That's very much what Ellis Island was. But at some point, we as a country, and I think if I recall correctly, it was back just after World War I, prior to World War II, we basically stopped doing all of that. But two things have to happen simultaneously, okay? One is we have to seal the borders, and we got to seal them tighter than the whale's blowhole. I mean, when a whale farts, I don't want to smell it in Mexico. You know what I'm saying? That's how tightly the borders need to be sealed, and that's for our own security. Right now, we have a major issue going on, besides just the illegal immigrants in these centers, and that issue is smallpox. Smallpox is running rampant through these immigration centers. Why? Because there's nobody's inoculated. So a lot of diseases are being brought across the border, and that's just one of many threats. It's not just the people. It's not about them. It doesn't make them bad people or anything else. But again, we have a society here, and it's important for us to protect that society. Now, having said that, the other thing that needs to happen is a path to citizenship needs to be set upon. We need to provide a realistic, open, and honest way for these people to do whatever it takes to become productive members of our society. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So in a lot of ways, you're saying that, because what I'm doing right now is I'm emulating exactly what Mitt Romney's platform was on immigration during the election. So you're saying that on that, because I do. I think that he was spot on with it during the election, and I think that enough people didn't take him seriously. Whereas the president's idea was to just leave the borders open as they are and provide a pathway for citizenship once they're in the country. But I think we all know that the borders being open the way that they are right now is not a good thing. It's not good for anybody. And in fact, now we're seeing a humanitarian crisis erupting on our border. They have recently turned an abandoned Walmart in Texas into an immigration detention facility. You know, there are facilities that have 10,000 children in them and nowhere to send these kids. The Border Patrol agents are being forced to feed children and change diapers and wash clothes. That's not their job. That's not what they should be doing. They should be protecting the border. And quite frankly, Congress and the President need to be leaders in this regard, and they're failing miserably in this regard.
So let's get Chris's thoughts. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of along the lines of what St. Paul is saying here, and you know, it's kind of twofold. You know, first of all, we need to take care of our own before we can take care of others. And I can, you know, when we have hundreds of thousands, if not maybe even getting into the millions of starving children and families in our own country, then, you know, we should be focusing platforms and efforts on that for our country before we, for example, you know, launch, you know, billions in aid for third world countries or others, as an example. So
you mean like the rebels in Syria and the $500 million the president just requested to arm them? Right, that's a great point.
Right. So it's one of those things where I think, you know, if there are folks in this country, and you know, like's been said, they're running businesses, they're trying to contribute to a society, and if they have a path to do so, I mean, think about the amount of revenue that could be generated to help communities, to help the government, to help, you know, to actually help strengthen and build what's here, and then, you know, develop a system for, as you mentioned, Kevin, you know, kind of an Ellis Island type thing, you know, a way to come in, not just a, hey, you know, bring us your tired and weary masses, but we have absolutely no support structure to support that. We have tens of thousands coming over, but hey, come here anyway, and we'll, you know, staple a piece of paper to your shirt and send you on a plane or a bus somewhere. That's just opening yourself up for problems. I'm certainly not advocating that these folks are bad. They're doing bad things per se, but it's a vulnerability, and it's as St. Paul said, it's a humanitarian crisis. It endangers local citizens. It endangers those who are citizens of this country, even those who have become legalized citizens, you know, from those countries, and it really doesn't. There's no method to the madness, and you know, when you start having, you know, citizens in your own country who have fewer or less benefits or rights than somebody who traipses across the border and is, you know, gets the health care, gets benefits, gets whatever, it's kind of not balanced. You know, you need to support your own before you can support others. That's kind of my take on the whole thing.
Let me give my opinion really quick, and I think I'll surprise Paul, because this will be not the left side of how to do this. But I agree with Paul that, first off, you seal the borders, and you seal them really, really well. And you seal them in such a way that you cannot allow people to come through. Secondly, I agree with Chris. You set up some kind of a centralized location to process people through that want to come through legally. You can screen them for smallpox. You can screen them for other communicable diseases, just like they were doing at Ellis Island, although I would be a lot more humane than we were at Ellis Island. I would propose, this is where Paul's going to have a convulsion. I would propose that if we do that, we grant amnesty to anybody who's here now, because I think it becomes too chaotic to do both at one time. So you bite the bullet like Reagan did, even though there was no follow through after that. You give amnesty. Then what you say is this: if you break any law, you're gone. It is a one-strike process. So if you assault someone, you're doing time in the county lockup, and then as soon as you're out of the county lockup, we're picking you up and taking you and dumping you back over the wall. If you don't get legal as a business owner or as an employee, you're not filing taxes, you break any law, then you're going back. And at some point, you will weed through the people that want to be here legally and do the things they need to do legally to be here and be productive, and the ones that aren't, you can send them back where they need to go. So that's kind of my rationale to it.
Well, and I could kind of see that from the standpoint of, if you're already, if you decide to close down the borders and you initiate, processes to do so, and then on the other side, for folks who do want to become legal, you set up that process. You're already devoting massive resources and personnel and efforts to doing that. So I could kind of
100 yards up the road.
What?
What?
Sorry, my bad.
That's all right. All right. Were you talking to us or somebody else? I couldn't tell.
I was just asked Caleb where Sarah's at, if she's coming down here to the ball field.
Oh, I don't know. He's not at the controls right now. So
I think I see her. I think she just pulled in.
Okay. So Paul, did you hear my idea? Do you have a thought on it?
I did. No, listen. Again, it's the kind of thing where, listen, if somebody like you and I, who are so diametrically opposed on so many political levels, if we can, in a 10-minute conversation, come to a realistic conclusion and say, listen, this is what we think needs to happen here. We're being very honest, very open, and very realistic. How hard must it be for these powers that supposedly be, what's their malfunction?
Well, I'll tell you what the malfunction is. The malfunction is you look heartless. So here's the other thing I would do, and I meant to say this earlier. You start getting kids at the border without parents, you turn them away. Now, it sucks, and it's heartless, and it makes us look like giant jerks, but you know what? If enough kids get turned away from the border, their parents will quit sending them.
Right. Well, and, it might sound cold and heartless, but believe me, I'm sure what's happening to these children, not just there, but in other countries every day of every week, is far worse than anything that we're doing, saying, turning them around. And then, of course, by the merits of that statement, people could argue, oh, well, it's because they come from these horrible conditions, we must take them in. But if you don't have the infrastructure to support them, then they're just going to end up on the streets here, and they're going to get preyed upon by predators here, and their situation is going to be absolutely no different. They're going to be subjected to the same types of ills, and you got to get your shit together here before you can take stuff from over there. And that's it's a very simple premise, and it's one of the things that, while I generally don't talk politics with folks, because I kind of like St. Paul, you said you worked at immigration for 6 months and walked away because you got pissed off. That's kind of where I'm at, because there's so many of these things that I think are so flippin' simple. Like you just made the point. In 10 minutes, we've all of us are probably in varying different corners of the ring have all said, oh yeah, this makes sense. And there's so many things that are just so damn simple, and for whatever reason, it doesn't happen. And then by the various talks of action, there's no action, and it just gets worse.
Well, the larger issue here is, and we haven't even brought this up, but Mexico is completely complicit in the issue. They refuse to do anything to address the problem. They refuse to do anything to help stem the flow of immigrants. They have vehemently opposed the border fence. They've essentially said, these are our people, but... And people are cheering because they like what I'm saying so much. But they've essentially said, these are our people, but they're your responsibility now. At some point, Mexico has to be held accountable. I've always thought the only thing you could do, if you really wanted to stop this, is annex all of Mexico and make it a U.S. territory, and then fix it.
That's a great idea.
No, but what I'm saying is it's the only way you fix it, because you have a neighbor to the south that won't do anything to fix the problem. So no matter what, as long as there's this, it's almost like having two bodies of water up against each other, right? The lower body of water will always take on the water from the higher body of water until they're level. And right now, we have such a high level of standard of living in this country as opposed to what they have in Mexico. People will always risk their lives to come over. They'll always risk their lives to swim from Cuba. They'll always risk their lives to come from these third-party despot countries. And until those countries address the problem, we're just going to be building walls and shooting people trying to climb over them.
Well, so your idea, your line of thought, Kevin, is the Jeff Goldblum from the movie Independence Day idea, which is maybe if we'd have made the Earth less dirty, the aliens wouldn't know.
No. I wasn't saying we really should do that. I'm saying the only what I was saying is it would almost be an easier, cheaper fix. But I'm not suggesting we really do it because it's far more cumbersome than that. But until Mexico takes
the illegal immigration problem is to annex Mexico. I got you.
No, I was speaking flippantly, you moron. But until Mexico works to resolve the issues, all we can do is build fences and put barbed wire up and shoot the people that try to come over them and send them back.
Now you want to make us East Germany. Wow, you are on a roll.
Wait a second. Pause that just for a sec, Strip. Hold on, because Paul's leaving in a second. Listen, yes, I would like to suggest we make the border crossing like East Germany. Yes. Because you're going to have to at some point. Because if you don't, you will not deter and you will not stop. You will waste billions upon billions of dollars of enforcement agents and welfare and programs to help the people once they get here, and you will do nothing to deter them from trying. So yes, build a 12-foot wall with barbed wire across the top and guard towers. And you tell them, if you want to come to our country, do it legally. Go to Ellis Island. Go to whatever that...
I got to say that Strip and I, our great-great-grandfather, was killed at a concentration camp called Dachau. Maybe you've heard of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just wanted to make that clear. Okay. It's out of the machine gun tower.
I don't think Chris got that. Did you get what he said?
What?
He said his great-great-grandfather died at Dachau.
Yeah,
the concentration camp because he fell out of a guard tower.
Oh. Well, a majority of my father's family was actually, they were Polish Jew, and they were wiped out during World War II.
See, Paul, nice job. You just offended the guest.
Listen, I'm Polish. My entire family escaped from the country during World War II.
I hear you, man. I got it. It's okay, man. Dick, Kevin's just being a dick.
Yes, I am. So we're going to go to break, Paul. Go play your softball game. We'll continue this again.
You should have seen the look on the liberals' faces walking around here when I made your comment about building that tower with laser wire and machine gun tower.
I'm telling you, do what you got to do, man. At some point, you have to deter. You have to deter the act. Slaps on the wrist will not deter the act, unfortunately.
I think Monica, the Mexican American here on the team, wanted to jump through the phone and give you a hug.
All right, well, tell her I have amazing calves. Bottom of the hour break is next. Paul's going to go play softball. He'll be in with us later. We're going to keep Chris in studio for a bit.
Right on.
And stick around. It's more of the Outlaw Radio Network on EdgeMediaSource.com. Stay tuned.
The Outlaw Radio Network.
The Kitsap Humane Society is an independent nonprofit committed to providing positive, life-changing solutions to people and companion animals. Our vision is that every adoptable animal has a home. In 2010, we rehomed 4,111 pets. For more information on our programs, services, and animals available for adoption, visit us on the web at kitsap-humane.org. Kitsap Humane Society. Rescue, rehabilitate, rehome.
Hey, it's Kevin with the Outlaw Radio Network. When it came time for the guys with Outlaw Radio to get our tuxes for the Habitat for Humanity of Kitsap County's Raise the Roof event, we honestly had no idea where to get them. Then we found Judy at Judy's Sewing in East Bremerton. As evidenced by the name, Judy's Sewing does tailoring, alterations, and repair. She also does tuxedo rentals starting at $69, bridal party dresses for $69, and bride's dresses starting at only $189. Plus, we also learned that at Judy's Sewing, not only does she offer military members prices that are lower than they're going to find at the Navy Exchange, she also prioritizes their orders. That means if you're in the military, your needs move right to the front of the line. It's a special touch of service you can only get from a locally based business like Judy's Sewing. Judy's Sewing at the corner of Fairgrounds Road in Central Valley in East Bremerton, right near Handy Andy's. Or call Judy at 360-662-1212. 662-1212. Judy's Sewing, a local business that's proud to support her community.
And now, reason number 27 why you should choose Gordon Sound. Experience is everything.
You know, it's funny. Some of us will never ever find true love. Like, take, for instance, me. And I'm pretty sure that guy right there, and that lady with the sidebars, and basically everybody at table 9.
Don't hire that guy. Call the most experienced DJs and sound and lighting professionals. Gordon Sound, 9476 Silverdale Way, or call 360-692-2957. Gordon Sound, you rock, we roll.
Heather Madden, former machinist, wins success as a skilled professional rock star.
No more working dusty old machine shops for me. Being the boss of my own professional rock band has improved my life in every way, and I owe it all to the cool gear at Kitsap Music.
What do you want? Substantial spare time? Groupies? Leather pants? Use only certified cool products from Kitsap Music.
Hi, this is Stephen Gardner from the Kitsap Sun. There are 3 things we try to do on the Kitsap Caucus blog. Give you more about the story that didn't fit in the regular piece. Give you the story behind the story. We also try to draw attention to other news you might have missed. And sometimes, I like to poke fun at Port Orchard. Read the Kitsap Caucus blog at thekitsapsun.com.
The Legacy Group in Silverdale is a well-respected independent mortgage banker, absolutely committed to helping Kitsap County families on their path to home ownership. As an employee-owned company, the Legacy Group has a strong stake in your success, and they want to be your lifetime partner in helping you develop a strong real estate portfolio. Call the Legacy Group in Silverdale today at 698-6440 and find out how they can help you get started on the road to home ownership. 698-6440 for the Legacy Group, a lending experience that's a little different and a lot smarter.
Every time our country stands in the path of danger, an instinct seems to summon her finest first.
You're listening to the Outlaw Radio Network. OutlawRadioNetwork.com.
It's always the patriots who first hear the call. For everyone within the sound of my voice, from my cold, dead hand.
Need to get some Queensryche on here.
What's that?
Need to get some Queensryche on here.
Some Queensryche. Paul made all these bumps.
No,
that's why they all
it's cool.
sound very
it's okay
patriotical stuff.
It's okay stuff. I'm just saying you need to get some. Queensryche, like Empire.
Really, that's a good song.
Empire. That's a freaking. I was listening to that album on the way over.
Were you really?
Oh,
that's
yeah.
a great album.
Oh yeah, Hand on Heart, Silent Lucidity.
Yeah. Jet City Woman.
Yeah, totally. Oh yeah, it's a badass album.
Good album.
Did
All
you
right.
hear about the whole thing with Jeff T? I'll talk to you later about that.
Okay. So Christopher Duvall, otherwise known as CD Poe, you'll be able to catch up with him at GameCon 2014, July 5th and 6th. Wicka wicka wah. At the Kitsap Conference Center in Bremerton. It'll be GAME stands for Games, Anime, and Music Con. And be sure to check him out at Table 3. Check out some of his stuff. If you've watched the show for a while, you've seen my Seahawk. What are those called again? Minions. Seahawk Minion.
From Despicable Me.
And he's the artist who did that.
Yeah,
and so if you want more information, check him out at cdpo.com.
Totally.
And we've gotten off of the GameCon discussion. We can always go back to that, though, because we're flexible.
I have art, too. So.
Oh, you do have art to show, too.
Yeah,
we'll
it's on
get to
a
that.
thumb drive when...
whenever he gets back.
Thank you.
Yeah, see you in an hour. So we were talking before Paul left in regards to the issue with Border Patrol. So we'll touch on that just for one more second. I don't just because he had to leave doesn't mean we're done with the conversation. In fact, a lot of the best conversation we've ever had is after Paul's left. I'm not in any way suggesting we are insensitive to those seeking political asylum or issues in other countries or any of that, and we are tremendously lucky and blessed to have the style of life that we have that allows a couple fat white guys like CD Poe and I to sit in a room and do a radio show.
Right. But there've got to be limits.
Yeah,
I mean you can't, and that's where I think that's where the conversations get really prickly. Is nobody is willing to talk about the fact that you have this blessed environment. You have, all this stuff, like you said, two fat guys sitting around, doing a podcast every Sunday.
While I have a sandwich to my left.
Yeah, talking about GameCon and art and, like weird stuff off camera. But, or radio, whatever.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is it's gotten to that point because there have been sacrifices made. There have been limits that have been imposed, and that's where the discussions have to start, is what limits. You can't just have a free-for-all and automatically expect everything to be like, unicorns farting rainbows and burping butterflies. I mean, it's and it's not a partisan call. It's just pure frickin' common sense. I don't care whether you're a liberal, a conservative, whatever. You worship dogs. I don't care. You have to have some form of limitations. You have to have some form of structure to that, and that's where the conversations need to happen. And in order to come up with those limitations or those structures and guidelines, you have to stop the flow before you can figure out where the flow is going.
Exactly.
So that's kind of where I stand. It has nothing really to do with the political side of things. It's just common goddamn sense.
Well, and
get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn. But listen, I mean, as I said before too, the number from the CNN story that we were looking at before, and I don't ever know if these numbers are right or not, or if they're.
Well, I think St. Paul is dead on. I don't think they really do. I mean, for all the quote reported numbers and statistics, for all we know, there's twice that going on at points of the border that we don't
know about. Yeah.
Or I mean, it's
And not to mention those damn Canadians. But
the steal our cheese.
The number from the CNN story says that this year alone they estimate between 60 and 80,000 children without parents.
Now, that's just children.
That's just children, no parents.
Right.
So there could be other children coming across that are with parents that wouldn't be part of this. So literally, we've basically said it's a free-for-all at the border, and if you want to take the risk, go ahead and come on over, and we're really not going to do anything to deter you, so Mama said knock you out. We have to, at some point, instill this idea that it is not worth the risk. It is not something we want to push. Let's go through legal channels. And we have to establish legal channels because we don't have them now.
Right. And that's where, you have to establish stuff on this side, for people who are already here. If that's what you're going to do, if, like you said, the one time, hey, you're already on this side, you've got a business, maybe you don't.
Right.
But you are going to have a business, you are going to work, therefore you are going to do it legally. You are going to do it in the fashion that any, quote, normalized citizen of the United States would, and you're going to do it that way. And to stop people coming in, like you said, I mean, if it has to be a wall, the proverbial wall with barbed wire and, drawing the line in the sand, then if that's what has to happen, then that's what has to happen. Because you can't just set this stuff up overnight and then expect the 60 to 80,000 children alone without parents to continue to come over and be able to support it.
Yeah, exactly. Obama said, and again, this is a story from earlier today that was posted on CNN. Obama said, quote, "Do not send your children to the borders. If they do make it, they'll get sent back. More importantly, they may not make it." I don't know if there's any fear that they're going to get sent back.
Well,
I mean, I think that's the hitch in this whole thing.
Right.
If they didn't think their kids were going to make it across the border, they wouldn't be sending them.
Yeah.
And the problem is
they're banking on the fact that, I'm sorry, if you're a Border Patrol agent and you saw children advancing toward you or trying to cross a fence, really at this point, this kind of goes back to that, especially if there's no adults or parents. Yeah, what are they going to do? Pick them off before they get to the fence?
Because I think you have to.
But that's what I'm saying is, I don't think that obviously the parents are sending even these children showing up with parent or without parents. They may have parents, but their parents are sending their children for and saying it's probably they're betting again, or they're hedging their bets that their children would get to the fence, and the Border Patrol agents are going to see children and help them.
Right. And here's the other thing. Yeah. How desperate is it in El Salvador or Costa Rica or Mexico, wherever these families are sending their kids from? How bad does it have to be for you to say, my kid is better off without me going to America than they are to be with me? And what we've done, I'm going to sound totally...
I have a family member from El Salvador, and I could honestly tell you from stories that I've heard, it would probably be the hardest thing a parent would have to do. But based on some of the shit that goes on there, they would do it.
Well, it's like Kellogg.
You know.
It's like Kellogg getting rid of Superman. You know, you do what you have to do for your kids. No,
Well,
but
yeah, no, I hear you.
You do what you have to do
you.
to save your kids and get them out of there.
I was chuckling. I was very proud of you with the geek reference.
You like that?
Yeah, that was
I'm
great.
I'm learning.
Yeah.
But
you're doing well, my son.
But we have enabled these other countries,
right,
to just pawn it off. So now the other countries, they don't even have a responsibility to change the culture in their own country.
Right.
They just know, well, we got to save our kids. We'll send them to America instead of we have to fix the problems that plague our nation or our society, wherever they're coming from. There's no motivation to do that, and I don't know why that is. I don't know what the difference is, but there's no onus on them to fix things for their kids. They'd rather just send their kids here.
Yeah.
So, one other thing I want to talk about too, and I don't know if have you heard about this?
About what?
The dad that left his kid in the car in Georgia.
You know, I heard about it in like headline. Like I skimmed a headline. I've been kind of disconnected this week preparing for art stuff, so. I have a tendency to disconnect from a lot of the news type stuff. So when I emerge and people tell me that aliens have been sighted and are now running the government, which wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
So I'd heard about it, but I don't know much in the way of substance.
So let me give you the initial part of this first,
Okay.
and you'll think, "Oh my God, that's horrible." So a father by the name of Justin Ross Harris had his son in the car. 22-month-old was in a rear-facing car seat. Okay.
Okay.
He believe he went and got some breakfast. Then he went to work. When he got to work, he normally takes his son to the daycare center where he works, at the daycare center there. This day he forgot. He says
he forgot his kid.
Left his kid, his 22-month-old, in the back seat of the car. Went into work. At lunch, he came back out to his car, put something on the front seat or something or whatever, just in the front seat. And then went back to work. At the end of the day, he came out and realized his child had been in the car. It was 90-plus degrees outside. In a matter of hours, it can add another 40 degrees inside the temperature of the vehicle. 22-month-old, trying to see what the name of the kid was, but a 22-month-old baby, essentially, Cooper Harris, is dead. Now, initially, cops said that they thought this was a terrible accident, and not that there wouldn't have been charges filed, but it wasn't going to be a premeditated kind of murderous thing. It sounded like maybe it was an accident. We've heard of stories like this before. I don't know how you forget your kid in the car, but whatever. However, since then, it's come out a couple of things. One was that he was in the car at lunch. So how did he go back to the car at lunch and not realize there was an issue? Secondly, on the couple's home computer, him and his wife on their computer, someone had researched how long it would take for a dog to die in a hot car, and someone researched how long it would take for a baby to die in a hot car before it all happened.
I have some thoughts on this, but
Yes.
I don't know
No, go ahead.
that they would really be appropriate to say on the air. As a parent, I've managed, along with my wife, probably mostly because of my wife, I've managed to keep my son alive for 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when Forrest was very, very young, and Corey and I were both working, and I had to take him down to daycare, and I remember getting there. And it was his first day of daycare. I actually turned around and went home and called in sick to work because I've never admitted this to anyone. I'm admitting it on your radio show.
Yeah.
Because I did not want to take my son to daycare. So how a dad could honestly forget his fucking... I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
His
You're fine.
fucking son in a car and then come back at lunch... and still forget.
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't believe he has the right to suck the same air that I do.
Yeah. Here's a timeline.
That's my thought.
Here's a timeline. His father stopped at a breakfast fast food restaurant and then put his son in the rear facing child car seat in the back of the SUV. He drove to work about a half mile away. So it wasn't like he was on a long car ride where he would have forgotten his kid was a half mile away.
Yeah. And children, I mean, granted, babies sleep a lot, but children generally coo or make noise or move around. So even if I don't, okay, carry on.
Usually he would take his son to the on-site daycare. That day he forgot him in the seat. During the lunch break, he returned to his car, opened the driver's door to put something inside.
So just out of curiosity, now how did they? Were there security cameras or something? How did they determine he actually returned to his car? Was there?
I don't know. I believe that they had.
I was just kind of curious if that was something that he finally fessed up to, or just out of curiosity.
And then at 4:16 that afternoon, he came out, got in his car, drove away. A few miles away, he stopped the car at his shopping center and called for help. When it was clear that his son was dead, he became inconsolable, screaming, "What have I done?" The cause of death was hyperthermia. And they're waiting for some toxicology results before they make an official ruling on causes to the toddler's death. The mom has said that she's not angry with her husband and is standing by him.
Well, I don't believe she really deserves to be sucking the same oxygen I do either.
I'm kind of.
I mean, and I don't. I'm sorry. I don't believe in coincidences. If you go and if you're looking at like the search history on somebody's computer and you see recent search history results researching how a small animal roughly the size of a human child, how long it would take for them to die in a hot car, and then also having results searching how long it would take a child to die in a car, and then your child dies in a hot car not too long after that, I'm sorry, that's open and fucking shut.
Yeah.
That's just...
Here's her quote, by the way. Here's her quote.
God.
Am I angry? This is her quote. Quote, am I angry with Ross? Absolutely not. It has never crossed my mind. Ross is and was and will be, if we have more children, a wonderful father. Ross is a wonderful daddy and leader for our household. Cooper meant the world to him.
See, I think they should be sterilized.
I don't understand. I don't understand. The idea that he drove a half block.
Right.
Half a mile, excuse me. Half a mile.
Yeah.
And forgot his kid. That just doesn't make sense to me. Now, maybe it was a couple of miles or an hour drive and he was on a business call or whatever. But
and you would think, I mean, I'm sorry, having had an infant, an infant that would be sitting in a hot car for a few hours when he comes back for lunch. Now, granted, maybe the kid was already passed out, but if the kid wasn't already passed out from the hypothermia, or hyperthermia, what was it?
Hyper.
I always forget hyperthermia.
Yeah, too hot.
That kid would be fussing up a storm.
You would think so.
That kid would be screaming because it's flipping hot, and it would probably hungry. It probably had a soiled diaper. So if the kid had any sort of ability to be making a noise, it would have been.
Yeah.
I would think.
And you wonder why nobody else in the area heard it either. You knew that kid had to be crying.
Well, yeah. I was going to say, even
he was at a Home Depot corporate office, so there had to be other people parking in the parking lot. Where did he park? I would think where he parked might be a big deal, too.
Yeah. I was going to say, the fact that there was nobody who noticed this, then that might even go more towards the premeditation.
Yeah, how far did he park?
If you're parking out on the fringe of a giant parking lot where there's probably a little risk of somebody parking next to you and seeing what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very sad story. It's very
horrible,
very questionable. I don't understand how this stuff happens. I don't understand. Again, I don't understand anybody kills their own kid anyway.
It's like the woman driving into the ocean not too long ago. It was just a couple of months ago. Did you hear about that?
No.
It was like it was like Florida or something. She's telling her kids, it'll all be okay in a minute, and she just starts driving into the ocean. And,
really?
Yeah, and there was obviously people who saw what was going on and ran, and the car stalled, and they were able to and one of the children was I don't remember the details, old enough to speak and actually said what their mother was saying to them and was consoling them. Oh, it'll all be all right in a moment, and you'll be fine in a moment, and blah blah blah. And she was mental, but
it's like Susan. Remember Susan Smith?
Yeah,
that was that lady in South Carolina that basically, killed her kids and then came back and said that somebody stole her car with their kids in it. And,
right.
And I don't understand that, and I don't think that I don't know. There's got to be certain punishments for people like them. or people at least like him. Maybe her defense of him is mental protectionary. You know what I mean? Like, I married this guy. There's no way my brain is going to let me believe that I was that fucked up in my choice.
Well, yeah. I mean, in her defense, I suppose, when she was interviewed, if it's, like a lot of these media hounds, they're all over the place, like within minutes of finding something out.
Yeah.
She could have still been in shock. And then once it all hits her, she's going to realize he's a douchebag. But I mean, I'm sorry, the statement of, has been and always will be a great dad. No. Epic fail.
You let your kid get baked.
Epic fail. You rolled. You rolled a 1 on a D20 dice. You failed.
Geek reference.
You failed your rolls miserably.
You didn't get a 1.
I mean, I'm not trying to make light of the situation, but I'm sorry. He is not a great dad, because anybody who could forget their child not once, but according to his statement, but twice, that is you don't get a reroll on that one.
Police are also saying that she also searched the internet on child deaths in cars.
Well,
I wonder, though, I do wonder, and there's not a lot in there, but I do wonder if they were before or after the kid's death.
Well, see, I'd be kind of curious about that myself, because, and that could be part of the sensationalism of the media, which don't even get me started on that. Just the fact that they're not mentioning a timeline there could be, if it was something after the fact, maybe she's just looking up stuff to try and understand what's going on. But yeah, if it was beforehand, I'm sorry, that's just too convenient.
Yeah. So, and also breaking news coming out of San Diego: 46 people have been stuck for 4 hours on the Sky Tower ride after a power failure.
Right on at SeaWorld.
So
I haven't been to SeaWorld in forever.
They'll be getting free SeaWorld passes for life after this.
Oh,
I'm sure.
I'd go back.
Would you?
Especially the Sky Tower.
I wouldn't go on the Sky Tower. Wouldn't go on the Sky Tower, right? Yeah. All right. So here's what's coming up. We got breaking about a minute and a half or so. So what we'll do when we come back is, my voice just cracked again. That's outstanding. What we're going to do when we come back
is going through puberty.
That's right.
That's
right. When we come back, we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to talk about the Obamacare test, which will go before the Supreme Court starting tomorrow. Basically, the SCOTUS, as it's called, Supreme Court of the United States, SCOTUS will be voting on whether or not ruling on whether or not employers can be required to pay for contraception as part of the health insurance plans that they're officially required to legally mandate for their employers if birth control is against their religious or personal views. Now, there was a case very much like this, and this may even be the Hobby Lobby case, where the company Hobby Lobby basically said, we're a Christian organization. We don't believe in birth control. We don't believe that abortion should be allowed in the health insurance that we're providing. And so this has made it through the courts. Now, I'm going to double check during the break if this is the Hobby Lobby case. But there's several of these cases that are floating around where businesses are basically saying, we believe X, Y, and Z, and we don't want to support behavior outside of that. And it does open up a very large swath of interpretation. Now, this can be if your employer doesn't want you to smoke, can they refuse to allow specific types of treatments if you're found to be smoking? Will they refuse to? You know what I mean? There's a whole bunch of gray area of what this will represent.
Yes, yeah.
It'll be curious to see how it goes. And this is the Hobby Lobby case.
I would be kind of curious to hear what your take is on it.
Yeah, we'll get into it. I'll get yours too.
Religion is one of those things that I rarely, if ever, talk about with people because, it could be such a high... I mean, obviously this is tied... It's not about religion per se, but it's very closely tied into it because obviously they're saying we shouldn't have to do something because of what we believe.
Right.
Even though that really should have no bearing on what they provide for their employees. Basically, they're saying you need to believe what we believe.
Yeah,
in a roundabout way. And there was a billboard. It's a meme that's floating around Facebook. I've seen it several different times. Are we still going? Okay.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Bump it. Oh, there's Bump. And sure, that's the meme.
Okay, and it's it's very simple. It says religion is a lot like a penis.
Mm-hmm.
You can be proud of it, and you can talk about it. Just don't wave it in my face.
Yeah. I posted that on my Facebook page once my pastor didn't like it.
Yeah, we're really well. I can kind of see why.
Yeah,
but the sentiment, I think, is very, very. Everybody has their own beliefs.
Yeah, and we'll talk about this. It's a really good discussion to have.
Rock and
also,
roll.
later we'll talk about the VA scandal because I really am up in arms about this whole VA thing, and we'll explain why and kind of what's going on and what the Obama administration has proposed to resolve this. So,
cool.
Strip is running the boards. He is CD Poe sitting in for St. Paul now. He
Right
is
on.
my official co-host. I expect Tro to be in here at some point. I'm surprised he's not here yet. But until then, we'll just continue plodding along. It's the Outlaw Radio Network on EdgeMediaSource.com.
The Outlaw Radio Network.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. President Obama plans to nominate a former Procter & Gamble executive to lead the troubled Department of Veterans Affairs. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the president is expected to announce his choice of Bob McDonald to lead the VA on Monday.
A White House official describes McDonald as the perfect person to lead the VA during a tumultuous period. Former VA Secretary Eric Shinseki resigned under pressure last month after reports of long wait times and falsified records at VA hospitals around the country. Last week, the president's own audit found serious and systemic problems in the department, made worse by what a White House advisor described as a corrosive culture. McDonald spent 33 years at Procter & Gamble, eventually becoming CEO, where he oversaw worldwide operations and a workforce of 120,000. McDonald also spent 5 years in the Army, rising to the rank of captain after finishing near the top of his class at West Point. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
The extremist group that's taken over much of Iraq has announced the creation of an Islamic State. NPR's Alice Fordham reports the statement is a challenge to the al-Qaeda command structure.
It is a dream that lives in the depths of every Muslim believer, says the statement. It is a hope that flutters in the heart of every brave monotheist. That dream is the Caliphate, a restored Islamic state governed by a religious leader called a caliph. The announcement is made by the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, known as ISIS, who are changing their name just to the Islamic State. They say it's because they now rule over all Muslims worldwide who must now vow loyalty. Analysts see the statement as a challenge by the group's leader, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, to al-Qaeda's leadership, who have disowned him. Alice Fordham, NPR News, Baghdad.
Firefighters continue to battle a wildfire in Arizona's White Mountains. Pamela Baltimore is a National Forest spokeswoman. She says they're taking advantage of calmer winds to build containment lines around the fire.
There have been predicted gusts up to 10 miles an hour today, which was similar to yesterday, and the outlook looks great.
And Liza Simmons, a public information officer on the San Juan fire, says firefighters are doing a burnout, deliberately setting fires to help with containment.
There's certain areas that are looking good because of the burnouts that they've done and the dozer lines and hand lines that they've put in.
The fire is still at around 8 square miles. At the World Cup in Brazil today, Costa Rica beat Greece in a penalty shootout 5-3. Earlier today, Netherlands scored late, beating Mexico 2-1 on penalty. Now, that win sends the Dutch into the quarterfinals. They will now face Costa Rica. Tomorrow, France plays Nigeria, and then later, Germany faces Algeria. The United States plays Belgium Tuesday. This is NPR News from Washington. Black Entertainment Television holds its annual awards show tonight, celebrating African-American artists in show business. It's getting underway at this hour. As NPR's Netta Ulaby reports, the show, which will be hosted by comedian Chris Rock, has recently earned particularly strong ratings for the network.
For the past 2 years, the BET Awards have been the most watched award show on cable television, at least for adults aged 18 to 49. Last year's BET Awards was the most watched show that Sunday evening, period, in spite of headliners who faced allegations of treating women violently, namely Chris Brown and R. Kelly. More than 7 million people tuned in. The show's made a point of emphasizing performances over drawn-out awards announcements. This year, Beyoncé, Jay-Z, and John Legend are scheduled to perform, as well as Lionel Richie, who will be recognized for his lifetime achievements. Netta Ulaby, NPR News.
The country's biggest gay pride parade was held in New York City today. Rainbow flags lined the street of the city's Fifth Avenue as politicians, including Governor Andrew Cuomo and the city's mayor, Bill de Blasio, walked in the parade. One of the grand marshals, Laverne Cox, an actress on the Netflix show Orange is the New Black, says she's marching for the rights of all transgender people.
I'm super proud to be sitting next to Dolores Nettles. This is Alon Nettles' mother, and Alon Nettles is an African-American trans woman who, on August 17th of last year, was beaten into a coma and 5 days later died. There is yet to be an arrest.
Marchers are also commemorating the 45th anniversary of the Stonewall Inn riots that happened in Greenwich Village. That's credited with launching the modern gay rights movement. I'm Janine Herbst, NPR News in Washington.
The Kitsap Humane Society is an independent nonprofit committed to providing positive, life-changing solutions to people and companion animals. Our vision is that every adoptable animal has a home. In 2010, we rehomed 4,111 pets. For more information on our programs, services, and animals available for adoption, visit us on the web at kitsap-humane.org. Kitsap Humane Society. Rescue, rehabilitate, rehome.
Hey, it's Kevin with the Outlaw Radio Network. When it came time for the guys with Outlaw Radio to get our tuxes for the Habitat for Humanity of Kitsap County's Raise the Roof event, we honestly had no idea where to get them. Then we found Judy at Judy's Sewing in East Bremerton. As evidenced by the name, Judy's Sewing does tailoring, alterations, and repair. She also does tuxedo rentals starting at $69, bridal party dresses for $69, and bride's dresses starting at only $189. Plus, we also learned that at Judy's Sewing, not only does she offer military members prices that are lower than they're going to find at the Navy Exchange, she also prioritizes their orders. That means if you're in the military, your needs move right to the front of the line. It's a special touch of service you can only get from a locally based business like Judy's Sewing. Judy's Sewing at the corner of Fairgrounds Road in Central Valley in East Bremerton, right near Handy Andy's. Or call Judy at 360-662-1212. 662-1212. Judy's Sewing, a local business that's proud to support her community.
And now, reason number 27 why you should choose Gordon Sound. Experience is everything.
You know, it's funny. Some of us will never ever find true love. Like, take, for instance, me. And I'm pretty sure that guy right there. And that lady with the sideburns. And basically everybody at table 9.
Don't hire that guy. Call the most experienced DJs and sound and lighting professionals. Gordon Sound, 9476 Silverdale Way. Or call 360-692-2957. Gordon Sound, you rock, we roll.
Measures which will affect the lives of millions, born and unborn, are now before us. We must expect a great expense of blood. And then, we must always remember that a free constitution of civil government cannot be purchased at too dear a rate, as there is nothing on this side of Jerusalem of greater importance to mankind. I see a new nation ready to take its place in the world. Not an empire, but a republic. And a republic of laws, not men.
Those who would trade our freedom for the soup kitchen of the welfare state have told us they have a utopian solution of peace without victory. They call their policy accommodation. And they say if we'll only avoid any direct confrontation with the enemy, he'll forget his evil ways and learn to love us. All who oppose them are indicted as warmongers.
You're listening to the Outlaw Radio Network.
OutlawRadioNetwork.com.
I always wait for that musical kick, and then it goes for like a half second too long, and you think, is it not going to come on? And then it shows up.
Sorry.
CD Poe over here to my right. What's up, buddy?
Oh, living the dream, baby.
And Kate, all the loose cannons. Strips run on the boards. Trojo should be along shortly. Cool. At some point.
Yay.
And St. Paul is playing softball.
All right.
And he'll join us later, probably in studio, from what I hear.
With
2 kids.
Oh.
Strip is so excited to see his nephews.
Yay.
Yeah, so congratulations, Strip. You get some quality time with your nephews. He's not even listening to us.
I was going to say, he's
probably... Should we talk about him?
Probably intentionally.
Should we talk about him?
We could. I don't know him well enough. I'll just
make up stories about him. Like Strip is this and Strip is that. And Okay, now ready?
I saw him snorting pixie sticks the other day.
You ready? Okay, when I
Okay.
say 3, we're going to point and we're going to laugh.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3. He didn't even notice
Dude,
that.
he totally did.
What a jerk, man. All right, Outlaw Radio Network, 253-617-1440 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the show. Phone lines are open. Somebody just tagged me in a picture of bacon fudge.
I wonder why.
Well, because I like bacon.
Well, yeah.
I'm asking
I
if they
was so
wanna share.
honored when you shared a strip of your bacon with me at work the other day.
It's because I'm a giving man.
I can tell that.
I'm a giving guy. I still owe you a coffee, though.
You do.
I do. I remember
I
that
totally
all the-
forgot about that.
I don't forget about anything.
Well, yeah, whatever.
All right, let me read this to you. So this is what's going to be. They're going to rule on it tomorrow. So they're not even going to. It doesn't start tomorrow. The rule comes out tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
For those of you hoping for a cliffhanger that will drag on for weeks, you are sadly disappointed. And then I'm going to read this verbatim off of CNN, as we always give our sources. Because let's be honest, CNN is American for news, and where the fuck is that playing?
Yeah.
The Supreme.
I always go to the Onion.
Do you?
First.
Yeah, that's believable. I just love that. See, I watch CNN every morning when I get up and get ready for work. And every morning, at some point, they bring up the plane, the Malaysian airplane that nobody's seen in 4 months. And
Isn't that the weirdest thing to you? I mean, honestly, I'm
it
not,
is hard
I'm
not to believe in some kind of
you
government
know,
intervention.
How do you lose a goddamn plane?
I got no idea, man. And they're like, oh, well, we'll just go look over here. Oh, that's not there. We'll just go look over here. And if you look at a map of that part of the world, that's all ocean. I mean, it's not like the Pacific where there's islands and atolls and stuff that stuff can wash up on.
Atolls.
Atolls.
I know you're the first person I've ever heard that kind of pronounced that correctly.
Really?
Yeah.
I pay a lot of attention to World War II stories.
You're my hero.
Thanks.
All right.
We can be each other's heroes.
Okay.
But there's nothing in the southern Indian Ocean.
Right.
There literally is nothing there.
Yeah.
Eventually, it will wash into ice flows in Antarctica. And they're just like, oh, we're going to look over here. Oh, we're going to look over here. Oh, we're going to look over here. You're never going to find it. It's gone.
Yeah.
And some people, there's some really good conspiracy websites, Chris, that are talking about, oh, the American government brought it down, or oh, the Chinese brought it down, or
oh yeah, kind of like the website that was set up for 9/11, and they have like detailed like how demolitions experts set up charges throughout the building. Like how they did this completely undetected from anybody when tens of thousands of people work in those buildings.
That's right.
I have no idea, but
at this point, it's really hard to say, well, you're wrong, because they can't even find the freaking plane.
That's true.
And
That's
they're
true.
like, we're 100% sure that it went north and then went due west and then south. So
yeah, that's pretty sure.
And they've looked all down there, but nobody's looked north of where they think they made the left turn.
Yeah.
Is it possible they're chilling on a beach in North Korea somewhere?
Yeah.
But clearly not, because
maybe they're partying in Greenland.
Remember that that TV show that came out a couple years ago? I don't remember what it's called.
Lost?
No.
Sorry.
No. Close though. No, remember it had John Ritter's son in it, and they were on an airplane that took off in Miami, and it took off out of Miami and suddenly vanished. And an hour or so later, it reappeared on the desert in Arizona.
Oh,
do you remember that?
Yeah.
And
I
I'm
don't
thinking,
remember what it was called though.
I don't remember either.
Yeah,
I just remember it had John Ritter's kid in it.
Yeah. I was gonna say maybe as part of some like time travel experiment, like the Philadelphia experiment back in the day,
or maybe. I mean, they wouldn't tell us. We figured out a way to go back in time.
Could be anything.
Because if I had that plane, I was going to go back in time. I'd have gone back in time to about 2 seconds after it vanished and made it reappear.
I'd have gone to meet up with Marty McFly.
Ooh.
Gotta get back in time. Anyway, sorry. That was my really bad Huey Lewis impression.
That's really good. Are you coming to my birthday party on July 18th? You can sing some.
I just might.
I think you should.
And if I get enough liquor in me, I just might sing.
Well,
to you.
I'll be drinking copious amounts right along with you.
Alrighty then.
All right, so coming tomorrow is a big ruling. So I'm going to read this off of CNN because I think even though a lot of stuff they post is pretty slanted, this has got some pretty good explanations. So here's what it says. How big is this case? It's the most closely watched one on this term. The legal and social peak may not be the heights of 2 years ago when the justices narrowly preserved the Affordable Care Act and how it's paid for, but the stakes are still large. The decision could serve as a primer for other pending challenges to the health law championed by President Barack Obama and in play as a campaign issue this midterm season by Republicans as they seek to retake the Senate. Quote, "This case isn't that practically important except for the employees and businesses involved. There just aren't a huge number of those. But everyone can agree the social questions presented about when people can follow their religious convictions and when people are entitled to contraceptive care are truly important." That was some comments by Thomas Goldstein, publisher of the SCOTUSblog.com and a Washington appellate attorney. So, did you want my opinions first, or did you want to give your opinions?
Well, no, yeah, go ahead and I'll frame what I say based on that, because as I kind of said, I can't remember if I was on the mic when I said it or not, but usually when discussions involve religion, which this does involve, there's never going to be a true impartial discussion where people will come together and say, yes, that makes sense, because you're involving something which is completely and totally intangible, is based upon faith. And so when you get that involved in the equation, you can pretty much just throw any sort of rational conversation out the window. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about between you and I, but the parties involved. So that being said, I'd like to hear what you have to say.
And let me give an example of how this plays into that. So there are two companies that are part of this. Hobby Lobby is one of them. Conestoga Wood Specialties, which is a Pennsylvania-based cabinet maker, is the other one. Okay. Here's where the argument comes into play. What they do not want to cover under their health insurance is things like guy and girl sleep together, girl gets pregnant, she wants the day after abortion pill. Now, the day after abortion pill, if you don't know what it does, it basically stops the eggs from attaching to the side of a woman's womb, thus keeping her from getting pregnant, or keeping the pregnancy from materializing or whatever. Now,
so from a scientific standpoint, it's not even a kid.
Well,
anyways, go ahead.
It depends. Now, creationists,
I know. No, go on.
Creationists believe that this is
I just thought to throw that out there because then oh my god, and then that's another element of the conversation which is going to cause all rationality to be thrown out the window. So go ahead.
Creationists believe it's a form of abortion.
I know.
And so what Conestoga and Hobby Lobby have both said is we do not want to have healthcare plans that cover abortion, because we are opposed to that as a matter of faith. So I have two thoughts on this, and I'm having a hard time rationalizing the two. Option number one is shut your mouths and set up the health insurance plan. You're not responsible for their actions or what they do, and there may be valid reasons why they need that medication, i.e. rape, or to save the mother's life, or due to complications from the pregnancy. There could be all kinds of logical reasons that are not a matter of a faith-based argument to have that. So one side of me is like, just shut up and pay for it. Shut up and set it up. Do what you got to do. Set your people up and be fair. The other part of me, though, is that it is not a right to work for these companies. So theoretically, if you were not happy with what you were being provided, you could quit to go work elsewhere. And so that may be the only caveat that I might side with them a tiny bit on, which is regardless of what their argument is, you don't have to work there. You don't have to partake in what they offer you if you choose to work somewhere else. And that would be it.
Okay.
That really is the only thing I can come up with that might...
And so I would tackle I'll tackle your second argument first and turn it around and say, well, by that rationale, the employer doesn't have, they don't have to, okay, let me just take a step back. Though the employee doesn't have to work there if they don't like it. Well, the employer doesn't have to like what they're doing or doesn't have to fundamentally agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of ties into the first case where regardless of the reasons, it's none of their goddamn business.
Yeah.
And what they're basically saying is, and what you're going to set a precedent for, and in the long run, and I'm sure people would scoff at me for this, and probably say I'm over-exaggerating, but it's going to set a precedent where basically one group or one person can say, I believe this, and that's how it's going to shape the policy of my company, of my whatever I'm involved in. Let's say it's not a smaller, well, Hobby Lobby I don't think is really, quote, small per se, if I remember correctly. But you basically have somebody saying that because of basically you're saying you need to believe what I believe. In a roundabout way, that's the point that you're trying to that they're trying to make. And they have to understand, especially even if you're a smaller company, but if you're a company that provides work for people in a town, maybe they don't have any other options. For the second argument, let's say it's a company that supports half the town. Well, maybe there's no other place really to. I mean, if they're the primary employer,
right?
And here you have the employer saying, "Oh, well, I believe that this anthropomorphic God thinks it's like totally wrong for me to not have a kid through ways of basically aborting the fetus or aborting this or whatever you decide when life starts," which again is a completely and totally no matter who you talk to, there's going to be different takes on that. You're going to have it from a scientific standpoint. You're going to have it from a religious standpoint of just the fact you're walking and talking means that anything you do to yourself to prevent you from having a child is considered an abortion. Okay, that's fine, but that's a completely separate. You need to separate that from your business. You need to separate that from. You need to allow folks to work, to have care. It doesn't matter what the reason is. I happen to know somebody very close to me who, if they ended up with essentially the baby went into fetal distress and the baby died, and so the only way to remove the fetus is to quote abort the fetus. It's still considered an abortion. As a result, she was excommunicated from her church.
Yeah.
Catholic? Even though
though
they stated it was medically necessary, and without this action occurring, the baby was already dead. There was no way to salvage the child.
Right.
The mother was at risk. The mother would definitely have died with a necrotic fetus in her. I don't mean to be blunt, but that's what
it is, though. It's the truth, yeah.
And the response is, well, whatever God's will is. So basically they're saying, well, if your body expelled it on its own, you could have lived.
Right.
But, medically it's like, no, you have something which is causing toxic shock to your system. You don't just let some anthropomorphic will of something else decide whether or not you're going to live. We have the tools, we have the technology.
Yeah. The argument that if God deems it to happen, it will happen is ludicrous. You ever heard this joke?
Yeah.
There's a guy, and he's in New Orleans during the floods, during Katrina, and he's on his porch, and the water's up to his waist. Right. And a boat comes by and says, "Hey, do you want us to rescue you?" "No, God will save me. God will save me." So the boat leaves. Later, he's on the porch, and the water is coming up to his feet. He's actually on his roof now.
Yeah.
And another boat comes by and says, "Do you want us to save you?" "No, God will save me. God's got me."
Right.
Later, the water's up to his neck. Helicopter flies overhead, drops a rope and says, "Grab on it." He says, "No, God will save me. God will save me." Doesn't get it. Eventually, he drowns. He goes to heaven. He says to God, "God, what the hell? All this faith. You were going to save me." And God says, "What the fuck? I sent 2 boats and a helicopter after you." I mean, and that is that illustrates what you're talking about. The idea that we're going to wait for something mythical to happen when God may very well be,
Right.
Again, I don't know if you believe in the God idea, but if you believe in a God idea, God can work in a whole bunch of different ways, which could include really skilled physicians who take the necrotic fetus out of your uterus.
And that's just it. And for somebody to to impose their particular beliefs and their will and saying, well, some of these reasons might be impure. That's none of your business. You are an employer. You provide, if you choose not to provide benefits to any sort of health care or any plan, which I think kind of goes fundamentally against what the quote or I was going to say quote Obamacare, but it's the Affordable Care Act. You are required to provide health care. And if this is part of the package, or it should be part of the package, if you determine it's not going to be part of your package, package. If you determine it's not going to be part of the benefits package, it shouldn't be
benefits package.
Package with benefits.
Package benefits.
It shouldn't be in my opinion, it shouldn't be for those reasons, because what you're saying at that point is because of what basically my beliefs are, quote, true beliefs.
Right.
You can believe that if you want, but unless you have, unless your God, and I do believe in a God.
Sure.
Unless your God comes to me and says, no, yeah, they're right, you're fucking wrong. Again, it's all based on faith. So you can say you're right, but I can say I'm right, and technically we're both right.
Right.
Because if God is omnipotent, all-knowing, and all-being and whatnot, what's to say mine just looks different than yours because that's how I perceive it. So that's getting a little bit esoteric. But the bottom line is, if you're an employer, I personally don't think you should have the right to say, because of my personal beliefs,
Sure.
I am not going to provide you something.
Well, if, somebody mentioned this to me once as an argument on this case, and at first I thought it was really stupid until I realized it fixed. It fits.
Yeah.
Which is the idea that maybe maybe religiously they don't believe that blacks and whites should commingle. And black and white couple commingles, they have a baby, the baby is half and half, and then the baby develops some kind of a cancer or something.
Right.
Do we want the employer to come back and say, well, listen, our religion says you guys never should have had a kid together in the first place, we're not going to cover this, because this is clearly the effects of you mixing races and dirtying up the races.
Yeah.
Now, it's a far-fetched idea, but it's the same premise.
Right.
I don't believe anybody's responsible for anybody else's salvation.
Right.
So if you believe that you have to go to church every single Sunday and read the Bible and 18 Hail Marys, well, that's fine. But you can't legislate it. And if you want to have an abortion, it's legal. The company can't legislate it. The company's not giving you permission to have the abortion. They are providing medical services, and you're the one responsible for the actions you take. This just seems like a...
Well, yeah, and
I think Obamacare is going to get slapped pretty hard with this. I cannot imagine that the court's going to rule in favor of it.
Oh, like I said, and again, people could say I'm over exaggerating. I think it would set a horrible precedent if it did, because you're basically saying, I mean, let's say it's an international company. The head of this international company is a kind of an eccentric. Maybe they're a hardcore fundamentalist, and they say something along those lines of whether it's mixed races or abortion or whatever. And here you've got an employer that provides employment for people. Well, we'll deal with the United States because we're talking about the Affordable Care Act here. That's a huge deal. They could just say, because of what I believe, you won't get this. That's bullshit.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, though.
And it's like, believe what you want to believe. That's fine. That's one of the beautiful things about this country. But don't impose it upon me, because I might not believe that way. Yeah, I could choose a different employer, but, you could choose not to be a dick and just give me my freaking health care.
Yeah. And it's a conversation we're going to have on the show at some point when Paul's here.
Yeah.
Which is the idea about, I've seen a lot more push on social media lately to strip nonprofits of their nonprofit status. To say churches should be paying taxes because they are involved politically. And I don't know if I necessarily believe they should lose their their tax-exempt status, but I do agree that if you start behaving politically, you need to lose it.
Yeah.
When Prop 8 was up in California, the Catholic Church and the Mormon churches both spent an awful lot of money in commercials and lobbyists to try to make sure that the gay marriage law didn't get passed in California. In fact, they were uber successful because it didn't get passed and eventually had to get shut down. It is an interesting conversation when we see religious organizations taking this really firm stand on what we can or cannot allow other people to do. And listen, I'll just tell you, I'll quote Bible really quick. If you read, I think it's in the book of John, about the woman at the well that was about to be killed by all the guys that surrounded her, and they were going to stone her to death because she committed adultery. Keep in mind what Jesus did at the well. He saved her and then said, stop doing it.
Yeah.
He didn't ridicule, he didn't attack. So this whole idea that we're in charge of other people's salvations is ridiculous, and has to stop. And it's everywhere.
And there's another passage. Now I honestly don't remember the book that it's from, but when he's when Jesus is talking to his disciples and sending them forth to don't hide your light under a bushel basket, to share the word. But he says this in an interesting way where he said, go into these towns, talk to these people. If they receive you, spread the word, teach them to teach others, and then move on. If they don't receive you, if they don't want to hear what you have to say, thank them for their hospitality. Go to the edge of the town, wipe the dust from your feet, and move on. In other words, he's saying, hey, talk about it. Like we said earlier, you can be proud of it. You can talk about it, but don't wave it in my face.
Yeah.
Don't force it down my throat. And that's and that's fine if you're going to have, but and I know this is it's a lot more convoluted of a concept than just the simple title of it, but separation of church and state. And when and I think that kind of applies here when you've got this mix of, okay, this is business, and now you're mixing personal beliefs in it. It's just a bad scenario all around, because there's no way that you've got a homogenized culture that believes the exact same thing that everybody else does to where it would work.
Well, and the other question out of this is, let's say you're Hobby Lobby and you find out one of your employees has had an abortion. Is that legal grounds for you to fire them? And that's a whole, because that's not a protected class. And like in the state of Washington, this is not a right to work state.
Right.
Unless you're a protected class, they can pretty much fire you in the state of Washington for whatever. Oh, I don't like your jeans.
Right.
I don't like your haircut. I don't like that you had an abortion last week.
Exactly.
And so the other half of this is what limitations are on businesses to respond in other ways. Are businesses able to have health information since they are paying part of the insurance bill?
That I don't know. I mean, because most obviously most of my experience is related to federal civil service. Now I know that federal civil service does not. The employee goes through an FOH physician who will liaise with the employee's physician. Because of it. In fact, actually, there were a lot of problems with the FEMLA, the Family Medical Leave Act, several years ago. There were many doctors that were really getting strict about the whole HIPAA laws type thing, and they're like, I don't care if you put a form in my face, I don't have to disclose anything. And that was one of the reasons why we got the Federal Civil Service got an FOH, federal. Was it FOHS, the Federal
Office of Health Services or something?
Where they have a liaison because it's from doctor to doctor. It still protects the patient-client privilege, and the FOHS physician will say, yes, this is a legitimate request. They don't give any details. They just say, I've reviewed the documentation, and this is a legitimate request. And so it completely cuts the employer out of the loop altogether, that with regards to the medical aspect of the Family Medical Leave Act. So what private industry does, I don't know. I'm sure you get a big enough company, they pay enough lobbyists, they'll probably do whatever the fuck they want. But
probably, yeah. It's interesting. And we'll see what this will definitely be something we'll talk about next week here on the show as well, because with that, they're going to rule tomorrow, and then you're going to hear a lot of people from one side or the other basically blowing their stack about it.
Oh yeah.
You'll either hear the conservative side of things just completely erupting because now we have to pay for abortions, or you'll hear the people on the left that are saying this is stuff that should be covered and should be okay. So it'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah.
We have a break coming up in a second. I'm not sure where Strip went off to, and I don't want to get into another topic before he gets here. I'm going to bring up a really quick one. Did you hear about the crazy nanny?
Oh, was this? Oh no, was this the one that arranged to have the house robbed and the 4-year-old ratted her out?
No,
Did you hear about that?
No, I did not. Let me read this to you. California family's nanny nightmare may be nearing an end. More than 3 weeks ago, the Bracamonte family fired Diane Stretton, 64, but she refused to leave the home. She was a live-in nanny. They hired her with the premise that she would help with the house chores and take care of the kids,
right,
in exchange for room and board. Okay.
Okay.
Police told the family they couldn't force her out without an eviction notice. A judge even ruled in the nanny's favor, saying that the Barkamanis did not terminate her employment in a legal manner. The family then said that Stretton, the nanny, threatened to sue them if they tried to force her out.
Wow.
I'm trying to get to the backstory on this. So here's what I know. Okay. She was helping out with things. Things were going really well, and then all of a sudden, she just wouldn't leave her room.
Okay.
She wouldn't come out of her room. She wouldn't do anything.
Right.
Eventually, on June 6th, they fired her because she wasn't doing her job.
Yeah, which I think if you were employed in any regular job, if you stop doing your job, you're going to be fired.
Mm-hmm. They padlocked the refrigerator. She threatened to sue them for false imprisonment. They took her to court, and the court said, you have to go through legal channels to evict her. She's established a residency there. You cannot just kick her out.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
You have legal requirements.
That's just crap.
So the family, this is the smartest thing I've ever heard of. The family basically went onto social media and said, I don't care who you are, you're my friend now. I want all of our friends to come to the house all the time, day and night. We're going to turn it into a party until we force her to leave.
That's amazing.
That is a great idea.
That's totally awesome.
Now,
I was going to say, if you live in this house, you're going to have to deal with all the crap that goes on in it. That's great. So did it work?
Well, Stretton has offered to move out, according to ABC News, but under her conditions. Stretton called the family's attorney late Saturday night and said she could be out by July 4th.
What are her conditions?
Yeah, I don't know.
Find her an apartment somewhere?
Marcella Barkamani, who said on Good Morning America, Barkamani said that the family said they won't work because they plan to be out of town on the 4th of July. It is still unclear at this point if the nanny will leave of her own free will or whether the family will have to continue through the eviction process, which is now underway, before they can call their home theirs again. This is now by court, by law, this is her domain.
This is, and I think that's absolutely ludicrous that you can actually have a system set up where your house, your own domain, your own abode, just because you hire somebody to do a job and then they don't do it, it becomes their domain. That's complete and utter bullshit.
Yeah,
I just think that's crap.
She stopped working for about a month before they finally fired her. So the problem is,
okay. So it's okay to not do your job for a month just because that's your residence now. No.
Yeah. Well,
God, you know what? Get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn.
Pass me a controller and get off my lawn.
We're gonna put that on your gravestone.
I'm actually, I was thinking about setting up a blog, and it's gonna be called Get Off My Lawn, Pass a Controller.
Yeah.
Because
.com
Geek Reference. It's gonna be a WordPress site.
Nice.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Nice.
I know, right?
I don't know where my board op guy went. I'm really afraid. I'm afraid to bring up another topic because as soon as I do, he'll show up down here.
Oh, there he is.
Is he there?
You want to wave at him?
There he is. All right. So we'll take a break. 9 minutes late, but that's okay.
Why? I wasn't even going to take a break. You guys were too involved in your conversation. I had to go watch my daughter real quick.
Yeah, see?
Well, let's take a quick break.
That was legit.
Why? We're 8 minutes past. There's no point in taking a break now.
Ooh, hey, we're going to marathon.
What happened to you being a Nazi on the clock?
Because we're 8 minutes
You used
past.
to be a Nazi on the clock.
I was actually sitting there. I got commercials ready, and at like 9:30, you guys were talking religion or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't listening.
And you were like, get me the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
You're like, they're talking about God. I am out of here.
So when Ryan started, he was like,
Has
hey,
Trojo shown up yet?
Yeah, he's here.
Well, then we need to go to break so we can come in.
He can walk in whenever he wants.
No, he can't. I have to put my laptop out of his spot.
There's another mic right there.
All right. Well, that's what you want to do then. You want to skip break?
I don't know, Trojo. What do you want to do? I think he's crazy. I think he should just wait till next hour, but that's just me.
He can come in whenever he wants to. I don't think he's ever met Chris anyway.
No, he hasn't.
You know what happens next hour?
What happens?
All the rules go out the window. It's the most offensive hour in radio.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I could tell like butt jokes.
Well, we have we have the most offensive 5 minutes in radio at the end of every show, which is the worst possible jokes we can find on Reddit.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I won't tell you the one I told last week. It was really bad. It was really bad.
Well, you can tell me the last hour.
I won't even repeat it.
What?
I got hate mail.
You can't set me up like that and leave me.
I'll tell you during break if you really want to hear it. But it really is the most offensive joke you'll ever
That's
hear.
totally cool. That's like mental blue balls. You can't just like sit there.
Mental blue balls.
Just like you get me, all stoked. Oh no, I can't tell you.
I can't tell you. All right, so let's talk about the VA thing really quick.
We are continuing.
Yeah, we'll just continue. Strip has told us the way things are.
That is
is how it will be.
That is
okay.
Cool.
I don't want any top of the hour news though before the 4th hour. Are we on the same page?
Man, there ain't gonna be no top of the hour news.
Just making sure.
You got 20 minutes because look, if we took the break, you would
See?
only have like.
I need to
17 minutes.
give you a list of what time the actual breaks are because you're taking them at like 1 minute after, and it should be 2 minutes. But it should be at 58.
I tend to wait and give you guys a second to finish what you're saying.
Oh, you can't do that when Paul's here.
Well, we only have.
I'm just saying you can't do that when Paul's here.
Are only 30 seconds.
I'm just saying you can't do it when Paul's here.
30 seconds.
I know that, but Paul needs to learn.
And who did the outs?
I did.
So
because Paul needs to learn.
Who's
you are
faulty?
holding his hand. You are enabling him.
Whatever. I can enable you too.
I got your enabling right
See?
here, man. Oh,
You mean disable me is what you meant. All right, let's read this story really quick. This is about what's going on at the VA. And again, I'm going to read this off of CNN, but I'm not going to read a lot of it off of here.
Thank God.
Barack Obama has nominated or will nominate Bob McDonald, the former CEO of Procter & Gamble and a former West Point graduate, to take over the Department of Veterans Affairs. So let me here's what's going on. Let me check this out. Ready? Okay. The controversy involves delayed care with potentially fatal consequences in possibly dozens of cases. Eric Shinesky stepped down as the head of the department in May after Republicans, Democrats, and veterans groups joined together in calling for his resignation. Obama went before reporters to make the announcement after meeting with Shinesky, saying the retired Army general told him, quote, the VA needs new leadership. No shit. Hold on, I'm going to scroll
like the
down
understatement of the year.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
Because everything is about how awesome the new guys that they're hiring, and not the people that may have possibly died under the care of the VA. Because the VA was changing death certificates.
Well, yeah, they're trying to cover all that up.
They were delaying care,
just like they're putting like the top story of the hour, the IRS scandal. I'm sorry, this is far outweighs what anything the IRS could or would have done.
Yeah. On Friday, a White House report said the agency's healthcare system is in need of a complete overhaul because of unresponsive leadership and a, quote, corrosive culture that affects the delivery of medical care. The report was prepared by Rob Neighbors, not to be confused with Jim Neighbors, who was Obama's Obama's deputy chief of staff. I'm glad you got that joke. And who the president dispatched to assess the situation of the troubled agency. So here's what they're saying. They're basically saying that they were moving files around for the sake of moving files around. To say that they did something without ever really doing something. They changed death certificate records on some of the veterans. They basically worked really hard not to take care of anybody. Now, I get this whole IRS thing, and I don't comment it much for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But I get the whole IRS thing is a hot pot thing, and a lot of people don't like the IRS, so it's really easy to dogpile. And, oh my God, the taxes, and they're not in the Constitution, blah, 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 blah. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
But fine. I will humor you for a minute and say this whole Lois Lerner IRS thing is a big issue that needs to be dealt with.
Yeah.
And there's some stuff that has to be touched on with that. I don't debate any of that. But put it on a scale of justice. We have not-for-profit groups that were being held to extra scrutiny before they got their not-for-profits tax breaks. So we're talking about money. On the other side, we're talking about the men and women in uniform that sign up to volunteer to support this country and defend this country, and they go off and they fight wars and they get hurt and they come back and they expect exceptional medical care because they laid their lives on the line for their country, and some of them died and we fraudulated their death certificates. It's not even
close.
Equal. It's not in the same state on the importance scale.
It's not even the same planet.
It's not even remotely, and we're talking about. Should we charge Lois Lerner? Should we charge Barack Obama? I'd like to see somebody talk about charging Shinesky. I'd like to see somebody talk about charging the people that are higher up on the VA food chain that led to this clusterfuck in the first place.
Yeah.
Money can be replaced. Money can be fixed. Money can be handled in court. People could sue the IRS if they felt like their nonprofit agency had to make unfair tax payments. Fine. It's money. It can be replaced. Yeah. You can't replace these Vietnam-era guys, and there's a whole bunch of them that are still being seen medically by the VA. You can't replace the Iraq and Afghanistan veterans that have to be treated through the VA that have gotten subpar treatment. And even if they haven't died yet, how many years have you taken off their life by denying the medical care that they should have gotten? This is the biggest... Seriously, this should be the biggest scandal that we're talking about. Not just in the Obama administration, but probably since 9/11.
Yeah. Well, they're always gonna be able to, because they have for years, decades. They'll always find something to rake the IRS over the coals about, because it's one of the most hated organizations in the government. Because let's face it, nobody likes to pay taxes. Mm-hmm. But that being said, you're right. Here you have a government organization who, is supposed to help, basically help provide care for veterans, provide programs, work programs if they're disabled veterans, help them transition from military to civilian life, basically to protect, essentially. These men and women of the service have protected our country, whether you agree or disagree with, political decisions which put them in harm's way or where they go. The bottom line is they do it without question. And so most of these cases, all of these cases, these are men and women who are coming back and, as you said, expecting care. And they're basically being told by an organization, we fucked up and now we're going to try and cover it. And I come from, I did not serve myself, but I come from a family, many generations of servicemen and women, and I can't even fathom how I would react if one of them was, suffered for something along these lines.
Let me give you some of the stuff that this off of the CNN side. I'm writing a lot of CNN stuff tonight, but just to illustrate what we're talking about, and I'm going to go all the way back to 2009. And I'm not going to cover all of these, but I want to prove a point.
It's way back.
Well, and the reason I'm going back is because this is why nobody's saying anything. Yeah. Republicans would have to admit that they fucked up. See, with this thing with the IRS and Lois Lerner, they can say, "Oh, it's all Democrat." They can blame the Democrats, and they can take a moral high ground. That you can't do this in the VA because the VA spans over administrations of both parties and different parties being in control of Congress, the House and the Senate.
I was going to say, throughout this duration, I'm glad you made that point, because yes, it goes back to a Republican era, but throughout like you said, the history of this, there were. Both parties had control
at different times,
at different points throughout this. So this is an equal blame game.
And this is why none of them want to touch on it, because the same people that are in office now are the same people that were in office 5 years ago.
Exactly.
Because we keep electing the same dumbwits every single election cycle to go back into the job they didn't do the first time they were there.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hey, let's shut down the government to prove a point.
Yeah, that was a great plan.
Yeah,
so I'll just read you some of these. Here we go. Here's one from 2009. The VA discloses that 10,000 veterans who underwent colonoscopies in Tennessee's Georgia and Florida were exposed to potential virus infections due to poorly disinfected equipment. 2011, 9 Ohio veterans test positive for hepatitis after routine dental work at a clinic in Dayton, Ohio. The dentist at the clinic says he didn't wash his hands or even change his gloves for patients for 18 years. 2011, an outbreak of Legionnaire's disease at the VA hospital in Oakland, Pennsylvania. 5 veterans die over the next 2 years. In 2013, the newspaper discloses VA records showed evidence of widespread contamination at the facility all the way back to 2007. 2012, the VA found that graves of at least 120 veterans in agency-run cemeteries are misfucking identified. How hard is it to get the right name on the gravestone? 2013, former director of Veterans Affairs in Ohio, William Montague, was indicted on charges he took bribes and kickbacks to steer VA contracts to a company that does business with the agency nationwide. January of this year, CNN reports 19 veterans at least died at VA hospitals because of delays in diagnosis and treatment. April 9th, lawmakers excoriate Virginia VA officials at a hearing. This is an outrage. This is an American disaster, said Representative Jackie Warlaski. Hey, Jackie, do something to properly fund the fucking agency. April 23rd, at least 40 veterans died while waiting for appointments to see a doctor at the Phoenix Veterans Affairs healthcare system. Phoenix, not nationwide, just frickin' Phoenix. The patients were on a secret list designed to hide the lengthy delays from VA officials in Washington. Wow. Let's see. Then there's about the subpoenas. Scheduling scandal widens as a Cheyenne, Wyoming VA employee is placed on administrative leave after an email surfaces in which the employee discusses, quote, gaming the system a bit to manipulate waiting times. The suspension comes a day after a scheduling clerk in San Antonio admitted, quote, to cooking the books to shorten apparent waiting times. 3 days later, 2 employees in Durham, North Carolina were placed on leave for similar accusations. May 19th, 3 supervisors at Gainesville, Florida VA hospital placed on leave after investigators find a list of patients requiring follow-up care kept on paper, but not in the VA's computerized scheduling system. May 21st, Obama says he will not stand for misconduct at the VA. Well, what the fuck were you doing for the last 6 years? I mean, this is, and again, I know that people on the right are going to go, oh, this is Obama, and he's just incompetent, and da-da-da-da-da. Well, you can talk about a whole lot of stuff that's wrong with Obama's White House, and that's fine. But this, my friend, belongs at the foot of anybody who's ever been elected.
It belongs to all of them.
Yeah. And honestly,
yeah.
And honestly, it belongs to us.
Yeah.
Because we're the same idiots that vote the same people in office every year.
Yep.
One guy I'd like to slap across the face is a guy named Norm Dix. Because he was in office for 30-some-odd years. He represented this district, which is primarily military, all the Navy people. He was on the one of the big committees about military spending or something like that, and he ran on this premise he was going to look out for the military. This is proof that he personally did not look out for the military, because if he did, he would have done something to change it, or he would have gone public and said, this is bullshit. And he didn't. And neither has Nancy Pelosi or Harry Reid or Maria Can't Do Anything Well or what's her name? Patty Soccer Mom and Tennis Shoes Murray or anybody. I mean, this is not a suddenly Barack Obama woke up one day and decided, I'm going to screw the vets. This is a systemic failure
to everybody.
over decades. You don't just wake up one day and realize the guy has not been washing his hands or changing his gloves for 18 years, and it took tuberculosis to break out before they realized, oh crap, maybe the dude should change his gloves? How does that happen?
Yeah.
It boggles the mind, man. It boggles the mind.
It's a mind of boggle.
I almost applied to work for the VA. I'm totally glad I didn't. And you know, we can go back further than this. I mean, there's stuff in the 40s, 50s, 70s, 80s. I mean, this is not how you handle an agency whose job it is to take care of the people who take care of us. I mean, you can haggle over defense spending, you can haggle over education spending, you could haggle over how much do we fund the IRS or how much do we fund the Department of Immigration. You can haggle over all this stuff, but this department, this agency should be above reproach. I mean, it should just be, this is a no-brainer. And instead it's turned into one of the biggest just jokes. I mean, the other countries have to laugh at us with this. You guys have the finest fighting force in the world, the most technologically advanced, and you have people dying waiting for an appointment or because there's delays in processing for results.
Okay. Because they're on a paper list, not a computer.
That just doesn't make any sense, man. No. I mean, not at all. There's another story about Pedro Valdez that's on the CNN website. He was a Vietnam veteran. He needed help. So he went to the Phoenix VA again and again. Starting in December 2012, Valdez would try to schedule with and even show up to see doctors at the Department of Veterans Affairs medical facilities in Arizona about his shortness of breath, according to his daughter. He thought he had gotten confirmed appointments, even toting cards with specific dates and times. In October 2013, So 11 months later, he showed up at his daughter's house after going to another appointment that never happened. Quote, he'd have the card in hand, go in and check in, and they tell him, Mr. Vedez, you have an appointment at the computer. We have no idea what you're talking about. So in October, he went in. The next available slot was in 3 months, or January 6th to 14. He never made it. He died on New Year's Eve. So well over a year later, the dude dies. He's got cards with appointments on them. He shows up for it, and they say, oh, we can't help you. We don't have you in the system.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't even have a response.
This just kills me.
Ludicrous.
And there's so much, and again, I'm not trying to discount people that are mad about the whole IRS thing at all. And there's questions to be made, and certain
Actually,
people.
I am a little bit.
Are you?
Because it's, first of all, I think it's a platform for everybody to get up in arms about their whole, their.
Well, St. Paul, the voice of reason, walked in 5 minutes for the last
there
call.
we go. Right on.
Well, why don't you get yourself a microphone and talk in the microphone? This is a live show, I know. That's why. So get the microphone so people can hear you.
Yeah, just throw Kevin's sandwich off the.
Yeah, I'll move my laptop during the top of the hour break. I was installing programs on the laptop.
Yeah.
So St. Paul, the voice of reason, is here. Paul, really quickly as you're here.
Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
So listen,
Can you hear me now?
We're talking about the VA thing,
right?
And I want to give you now. Have you followed this? Obviously, your dad was being treated through the VA for some of his stuff. Was he a Vietnam vet?
He was a Vietnam vet, two-tour volunteer. Actually, he did not have to serve, and he chose to. And his this is the thing, and I don't know if Caleb is aware of this, but I hope that he passes this.
You have 3 minutes, by the way,
to his own son.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that I don't begrudge Caleb this, because when Caleb was growing up, our parents separated while Caleb was young, and Caleb spent most of his time with our mom. So Caleb may not be aware of this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Look, see, he's not even.
He hasn't paid attention to us at all tonight.
Our dad actually, he was an only son. So being an only son, he was exempt from a lot of the rules with regards to
the draft.
Right. And my dad made it clear. He said, look, he goes, I got a very strong family. He goes, my family name is being carried on no matter what. And he goes, yeah, I don't have to enlist, and don't have to worry about the draft. But his idea was that he chose to enlist and raise his hand so that somebody else who maybe couldn't withstand the draft didn't have to go through it. And that's the kind of thing that when my grandfather told me that my dad did that, it struck me to the core about what American values and ideals are all about.
That's awesome.
It's like let me take I can take it. Let me take the brunt of this, so that the people who can't don't have to. And it
and somebody like that
Yeah.
deserves the absolute best healthcare and an organization that's going to back them when they need help, when they need support for doing things like that, for going out there, putting their lives on the line, whether it's Vietnam, whether it's all any war, World War II, Korea, Vietnam,
That's why
Afghanistan, Iraq, you name it, they should come back and they should expect to have the best healthcare of anybody.
Absolutely. It's why it kind of bothers me when I hear, and not in when I say that it bothers me, let me preface it by saying this. It doesn't bother me in a way that I get pissed off about it, but it bothers me in the sense that there are reporters in the world today who say World War II, hey, they were the greatest generation. Look, I get that. They did amazing things for 4.5 to 5 years. They did.
Yeah.
Okay? I don't take anything away from them. But let's not label them and say, okay, well, they're the greatest generation. But in the last 15 years, actually, let's say since 1990, okay, since the United States kind of erupted onto the world scene as the world's police force and the worldwide hero of the less fortunate, if you will.
Right.
That sounds horrible to some people, I know, but it's the truth nonetheless.
That's
okay. So let's just say it like this: for the last 10, 24 years, 4 years, we've had 3 generations now, okay, because a generation is every 10th year, right? So we're on our 3rd generation of kids that have grown up at war, and they've continued to volunteer. Okay, I get the Walter Cronkite idea that those people from World War II, they were the greatest. I get that because they enlisted in such droves. They did. But can't you make the argument that 24 years of solid voluntary enlistment, when we're a country that has been at a solid state of war, we've been on a war footing now of the last 24 years.
Right.
We've been in a solid war footing for 18 of those years.
Well, and especially since World War II. I think everybody, no matter what side of the fence you are, politically or whatever, can agree. I mean, pretty much everybody was on board that World War II needed to be fought.
Mm-hmm.
So so I think it's even especially important to note that you still have, as you said, people volunteering to serve, kids, 18. I'm sorry, that's still a kid.
Yeah,
volunteering to serve their country in the last 20 plus years of what's obviously been a very politically charged decision for war.
You know what? Can I say this at the risk of inflating your ego? What you just said was astounding, because Kevin will tell you, everybody listening will agree. Kevin will tell you, I do not give props I do not placate to people. But what you just said is astounding.
Unless they're Republican.
What you just said is
See, he's trying to take away your,
it's not even.
Can I say one thing though? Let me say one thing.
No, you may not.
Before you boost his ego, I want to ask you this question, because this is the question I wanted to ask you.
Can I finish my point?
Yeah, go ahead.
The point he just made was so astounding, because he drives home the point that we had the greatest generation, who you had millions sign up and enlist at a war for a war that nobody disagreed with. Right. Everybody on the face of planet Earth said, "Mother's got to go."
Yeah.
Okay, and they all stood up and they all lined up. They got their shots. They stood in line. They raised their hand. They went to they went to boot camp, and off they went. Okay, Not the case the last 15, 16, 17 years. Right? Not the case.
No.
Not the case at all, because this country is so politically divided.
Right.
But you know what? I think because of what he just said, and I had never thought of it this way, which is why I applaud you, sir, for making that point.
Thank you.
Because they did it without the guys of political partisanship. The guys who've continued to raise their hand and said, "I'll go. I'll represent my country. I'll give my life for the man next to me to the left and to the right.
Yeah.
I'll give my life for the man I'm in the foxhole with." They did it without regard to political partisanship.
So let me say one thing to this, and we got to go to the top of the hour.
Yeah.
Here's my issue. And again, as I said before you got here, I'm not discounting the people who want to have an issue with the IRS and that whole fiasco, and there's questions that have to be answered. But this thing with the VA is literally, to me, the largest clusterfuck of a mishap that this country has seen in a while. It's bigger than the IRS, in the sense that in the IRS you're talking money, and you're talking who was denied or who was delayed the opportunity for nonprofit status, and money can always be given back. But in the VA, we're talking about men and women that have signed up to defend this country, that are being given subpar health care, that are waiting months and months. We shared a story a minute ago before you got here about a guy who tried for over a year. He got appointments. He went there. They said, "You don't have an appointment." They set up another appointment. He'd come back for his appointment. You don't have an appointment. Yeah. Over a year, and he eventually died without being seen.
Kevin,
as big of a deal as people have made about the IRS, and again, I'm not minimizing that, but when you're talking about dead soldiers,
I am.
When you're talking about dead soldiers that are not getting care from the strongest nation in the world with the world's largest defense budget, that is a travesty, and it's a travesty that it's gone on so long. Before Obama, before Bush, before Clinton, before this thing, we have a timeline we looked at earlier. This thing goes on forever, and we have completely ignored
Kevin,
our veterans.
You're making an absolutely 110% valid point, but let me try to reemphasize to you the reality of the issue here.
Yes.
I'm not saying you're wrong. You're not wrong about anything you just said. Okay, you're not wrong. I'm a 10-year Army vet. You were in the Navy for how many years? 4?
5.
5? Okay. My dad was in the Army for 8. The issue with the VA, and here's why I'm going to say this is going to upset a lot of people, and I don't mean it to, but this is the truth. How much time do we have?
We're past.
All right. Well, I'm going to say this because it needs to be said, and I hope that somebody's recording this. Oh, yeah, we are. Because it needs to go out, and it needs to go viral. Most, as in 98% of soldiers, who either ETS or come back from the theater are aware of one thing: don't get into the VA system.
Mm-hmm.
Soldiers have known and understood the problems with the VA system for 50 years.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So listen, I'm not knocking you when you go off about how bad it is and how soldiers should be taken care of. But it's not as scandalous as you think. Because when you say scandal, that's like, oh my gosh, what was going on? What happened? Oh my, I can't believe it. Well, you can't believe it, Kevin. But the soldiers that have been in the system, they
know.
can.
They
We
know.
know
Yeah,
it's
but
there.
yeah,
No,
but
no, no, Kevin.
I just refuse to accept that
But
as
Kevin,
a
the
valid point, because it shouldn't be a.
But it's been the status quo for 50 years.
But we've beaten them into this idea that now they can't rely on the government that they swore to protect.
But
and
let me finish.
And there are okay, with some of this we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
There were lists that were doctored and hidden.
There were.
There were people that
But
weren't
they
entered
have
into the
been.
computer
They have
system.
been
That's
for
just
30 years.
unfathomable to
They
me.
have been for years and years and years. The problem is, Kevin, is that it's just now come to light. Okay? It's just, you're just now you're pissed because you just now found out about it. But the
hold
rest
on.
of us have been dealing with it for years and years and years. And that's not to say that your anger is feigned. It isn't. Your
Right.
anger is real. Okay?
Well, listen, 2003. Commission appointed by George Bush, 2003, 11 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
236,000 veterans have been waiting 6 months or more for initial or follow-up visits.
Absolutely.
So 11 years ago, and again, there's other stuff on here. I haven't gone through the whole timeline,
Sure.
but we knew 11 years ago
Mosquito
this
on your
system.
left arm.
Do I? Oh, I hate
Kill that
mosquitoes.
bastard. Okay.
We knew 11 years ago there was a flaw in the system.
We knew a lot longer than that.
But I'm just saying,
yeah.
just from what I've read, we knew at least 11 years ago there was a flaw.
That's right.
So what the fuck did we do?
Yeah, nothing.
And it comes down to and you've gotten mad at me because I've said this before, and whatever.
Well, then I apologize.
It
before
comes
whatever
down.
You're going to say.
It comes down to the fact that you can blame all your elected officials all you want to, but the blame on stuff like this, 11 years ago, we knew we didn't do anything. We still voted in the same idiots. We still put Norm Dixon in office every 2 years. We still reelect Patty Murray and Maria Cantwell every 6 years.
Okay.
We still put Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi in office. We still reelected, what is it, an 83% rate of people? Hold on.
No, you're missing the point.
But an 83% of the people that ran for election in the last election that were incumbents were reelected. We can't keep sending the same people forward and expecting different answers. That's all.
And Kevin, look, again, your point is 100% valid. Of
course it is.
You're just way off fucking base, okay?
Okay.
Or in your case, the reservation. What I'm trying
Be
to get
careful
across
now.
to you, what I'm trying to get across to you is that the soldiers and the men and women of the United States Armed Services that have been in the system have been in the system. They
Right.
expect it. You know why? Because they've seen it their whole lives. From the moment they enlisted, they've understood the system. They see how the system is. My father always said to me, he goes, I could have been killed by a sniper. I could have been killed by mustard gas. I could have been killed by a trap. There's lots of ways I could have died. I didn't. I've come back to the States. I'm suffering from Agent Orange poisoning. I'm not going to ask my country to pay for this, that, and the other. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just deal with it. One day at a time, one foot in front of the other. I'm going to put my pants on one leg at a time. And so many generations of veterans have made the choice, the conscious choice, to deal with our government and the way that they've been treated in the same exact way. And you'd better salute them and take your hat off to them.
The veterans deserve it
I'm
all.
not saying you don't. I'm just because you're defending them. You're trying to
Right.
to raise people up.
3
about
seconds. Hey, last call's next. Stick around.
And the only point that I'm trying to make.
The Outlaw Radio Network.